All right, we did it. Here we are, streaming away. Checking my mic, making sure it's not muted. It's not muted. All right. I am in a dramatic amount of pain right now. I have been holding off doing what they call leg day at the gym for a while because I knew it was going to be exactly like this. I knew it was going to be like day the day I did it, I knew I was going to be like, okay, I feel okay, and then the day after, I knew I was going to feel a little sore. But then it was this day. This is the day that I knew it was going to just be absolutely horrible, and it is. It's absolutely horrible. My legs feel, my inner thighs especially, my inner thighs, which I knew because I was doing exercises specifically for this area. I've always known that this area is the area that I need to target and I need to get at if I want to improve my leg strength and if I want to improve my overall strength. This is it right here. And so 2 days ago, I crushed it. I absolutely went for it. And now I'm just like, and I'm going to die on stream. I'm going to die on stream. Yeah. Hail Tosis 911. Leftists, they purged my accounts within weeks of Musk taking over. Yeah, I mean, I think the big difference on this one, Halitosis, is that it's fairly well established and fairly well regarded people who, and it's not just journalists. Like I think the one that really makes me go like, oh, okay, like it's gonna happen, like it's happening. The purges are coming. It's absolutely happening. Was Rob Rousseau. That Rob Rousseau I would not actually describe as a journalist, right? I think like he gets the moniker like podcaster or whatever, but at the end of the day he's just a citizen. That's all he is. Like he's just a guy. He's doing exactly what I'm doing, right? And he's just been doing it for longer, and he's just been doing it for forever, and so he's built a fan base and all this. But at the end of the day, he's just a guy that hits record and records things. That's what Rob Rousseau does, and he got purged off of X, right? So no, we're not talking about eternal political purges. X removed uh, uh, several. Here, let's just fucking read the article. Good evening, Cotton. Good evening, Bread Bunny. That guy, good to see you. Uh, uh, Hours after reporting the initial story, some of these suspended X accounts were returned. X has not explained what happened, and the affected accounts owners have no idea why they were briefly suspended. The reinstatement came after notable users such as George Galloway, a former member of the British Parliament, called for Musk for banning the accounts. Like Jackson Hinkle, of course. Why are accounts critical of Israel being suspended? Suspended journalist Stephen Monticelli told Motherboard that he wasn't able to contact X. The only message I received from Twitter was this buggy response to my appeal. I think this is the reason I was unbanned. Elon Musk playing customer service rep to far-right misinfo and conspiracy theory poster. Musk responded to far-right conspiracy theorist Jackson Hinkle's X's post, calling out for the suspensions before accounts were reinstated. This is the buggy response. Like, I do think that X is just dying. Like, I think that that's definitely happening. The original story follows. The X accounts of several prominent journalists and leftist pundits were suspended from the site, formerly known as Twitter, on Tuesday morning with no clear explanation. The suspensions affected several journalists and commentators, including Texas Observer journalist Stephen Monticelli, Ken Klippenstein of The Intercept, podcaster Rob Rousseau, and Alan McLeod of Mint Press News. The landing page for their accounts says it's been suspended, but does not give any explanation as to why. A message on the profile simply states X suspends accounts which violate the X rules. The ban didn't just hit journalists either. Several prominent left-leaning accounts were also purged from the website, including the account for the TrueAnon podcast and the Zaguirl, a cartoon squirrel that tweets media criticisms of figures like Glenn Greenwald. The ban was carried out with no overreaching explanation. Suspended accounts link to the X terms of service, which cover a wide range of possible violations. I haven't received any communications from Twitter or X about why they've been suspended. Monticelli told Motherboard in an email, I can't think of anything I've posted lately that would be worthy of suspensions, although I have written multiple critical reports about Twitter, X, and Elon Musk. And on it goes. Like, it's... this is happening, right? These purges are happening, right? We've got to brace for it. We gotta get ready for the idea that these guys are just going to start pulling switches, right? Methane, good to see you. Bex, good to see you. Not surprised. They just want to pick and choose winners and losers. Bring back Alex Jones, ban legitimate journalists, then lie about fighting for free speech. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, X and all of these platforms are just going to turn into just vanity projects for the rich, right? Like, they're just going to purge all of these eventually, because it's not going to be much different than the method by which, like, a king clears his court of critics, right? Like, that's the way it's actually going to be. That eventually the king will just stand up and go, these people have been talking shit about me and they must go, right? And that's what's going to happen on all of these platforms. Bread Bunny has a question. Your explanation of the meaning behind each chakra was a huge influence on me, and I meditate on it all the time. Oh, well, how lovely to hear, Bread Bunny. Oh, my goodness. I definitely have some time off coming for myself, and so I'm going to reinvigorate that investigation myself. I've definitely kind of been lax. I'm more on the, just workout kind of phase right now, just the literal physical work the muscle out, than I am into the chakras, but I still think about them. I wouldn't describe that as meditation, really, what I've been doing, but I think I'm due, if you understand me. But it's so wonderful to hear that it's having an impact on you and that it started an investigation for you. That's so lovely. What would I say the crown chakra is? So there's a couple of different ways to talk about it, right? And I try really hard not to get married to any one way of discussing it, because I think that it all counts. It's just what's going to be effective for your understanding. Like, there is a secular way to understand it, right? Like, the secular way of understanding it, near as I can tell, is just the crown chakra is your meta self, your self looking back at yourself, right? It's like the out of body experience, the third person camera, that you are not just your perception of what comes out of your eyes and what comes into your ears, that you have a sense of yourself that exists outside of yourself, that there is like a higher version of yourself that exists outside of, not to use, like, I don't really care that much for Freudian language, but like, or psychological language, but like your ego, right? Your monkey self, that there's a self that exists outside of that self, and that exists within the crown chakra. And of course, as you continue to investigate the chakras, the people who espouse chakras really talk that there are chakras that continue up, that they actually continue going. That what is seen here are just the major chakras. Like if you don't have a grasp on these chakras, then you don't grasp the chakras at all. And it's not until you get your hands on these chakras that you can start talking about any of the other ones, right? And I have never really done a big full investigation on the other ones, because I feel like I don't actually have that grasp. I don't think I have it quite yet. But so that's sort of the secular idea of what that is that within your brain, right, there is an ability to find a third person meta version of yourself, and that you can perceive yourself outside of yourself. So the third eye chakra is to look out into the world and see it as it is, and and to be able to interact with that with positive creativity. That's sort of the purpose of the third eye chakra. I'm seeing where your confusion lies, okay? Because it's easy, and I have been guilty of it myself. You're starting to catch up with me, I think, right? Like soon you will be teaching me if you continue on this path. I think, Bread Bunny, and the and that we'll be having conversations for a little while as peers, and then you'll surpass me. I think that's true. And so one of the big things that I had to get over was it's easy to blend the crown chakra and the third eye chakra together. And it's difficult to create a separation there. And that separation lay in that the third eye chakra is about seeing reality as it is and yourself within that reality as it is, and then interacting with that reality in a positive way, and understanding that you can interact with it and have positive change in the world. And whereas the third eye chakra, like I'm going to start using theological and divine language because I think it's more effective. But please understand that you can pursue this all secularly, and that's completely fine. That the third the crown chakra rather is where your connection to divine energy begins. That if you think of it as like a tether that comes like and connects right here, like boom, that this is where you begin your conversation with forces that exist outside yourself. That the third eye chakra is still, it is about awareness, and it's about being aware and being real in the world, and understanding that you can interact with it in a positive way. But this is about connecting to higher sources of power and authority. And it's about understanding that, yeah, you said earlier that you believe in a universal consciousness. Well, the third eye is not about connecting to the universal consciousness. It's about being aware of yourself within the material world. But then also sending that energy and being aware that there are universal forces that exist that are wider and larger than you, and that you're part of them. That's what the crown chakra is about. It's about the divine energy and about connecting in to that universal consciousness and that universal source. That the third eye chakra isn't about that. That the third eye chakra is about creativity and intuition, openness and awareness in the material world. And it isn't until you get to the crown chakra that you really are dealing with more immaterial things. That release of the concept of the self, the death of your ego, the death of your insistence that your individualism is sacrosanct, the ability to send up a pole for a signal to hit. Like I've said it before, right? Like it doesn't matter how strong the signal is if the receptor is bent. Well, you unbend the receptor at the crown chakra. That's where the receptor gets unbent. And yeah, so that's what the crown chakra is all about. It's about just releasing the energy into the universe and being open to whatever the universe is going to give you back. And it's mostly about just release and letting go, right? That's mostly what it's about. That it's not really about doing something. It's actually about the opposite. It's about allowing nothingness to exist, right? Which is a paradoxical idea, but that is what it is. It's just about allowing nothingness to exist. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. And again, for those of you who are listening in, who I know that you're out there, the atheists and the secular amongst us, please understand that that's all language, right? Like, and it's language that is used because I don't know how to say it otherwise, right? I don't know how to say connect to a universal consciousness or connect to an energy outside of yourself. I don't know what language to use. So if you can find that language, go ahead. But I do feel like if you're sitting over there being like, this phenomenon doesn't exist, then you're wrong. And I just don't know how to communicate to you. So that's all. That's all. Hope you're doing well out there. We won't spend too much more time on this because I do feel like, I mean, climate change is going to be the big one today. I think that people are. I feel like the scientific community and people across the board are beginning to panic. I think that panic is starting to come out, right? Oh, Haletosis writes, I bet the AI got some new permissions or directives, Dragnet style, measure against the LLM and get a number that correlates with leftist thought. Yeah. Resist, good to see you. Resist writes, here in Ecuador, a drug gang boss escaped jail 2 days ago, and now there's like a war going on between the gangs and government. A government TV station got taken over by a gang, and there's been a bunch of kidnapping, ransacking, and shootings all over the country, and all the businesses closed earlier today, and everything is canceled for tomorrow. Holy cow. That sounds insane, dude. That sounds crazy. I hope that you're safe. I hope that everything's okay for you in Ecuador. Oh my God. Jeez Louise. Haletosis writes, I just changed the ignition coil out of my Vortec engine. Which chakra is that? We have a guy in the Twitch chat named End Palestine Aid. You want to clarify that for us, my man? We have a very strong, we have fairly strong stances against Zionism in the chat. Mikhail writes, I appreciated what you had to say about first you need stability. That's right. It's stability, then fun, then self-confidence, right? Like you have to love yourself, and then you love others, and then you can tell the truth, and then you can interact with the world around you, and then you can interact with the greater consciousness. That's the path, and you can't skip any steps. Like you can't start working on your crown chakra until you've done the work on your third eye and down the path. You can't. You can pretend like you can, but it's not going to work, right? Like if you build a house, you need to put the first layer of bricks down, and if you try to put the third down, it's not going to work, right? For the very obvious reasons. And so for the same kind of thinking, that's the same thing with the chakras. Like if you're not safe, you can't have fun. And if you're not going to have fun, then you can't really have self-confidence, right? If you're not enjoying yourself, you're definitely not going to have confidence in yourself. If you're not going to have confidence in yourself, and if you're not going to love yourself, then you're not going to love anybody else around you, right? If you're not going to love anybody else around you, then you're definitely not telling the truth about what's going on around you, right? Everything's going to come from this place of like fear and self-protection, right? So you can't actually see what's true, and you certainly can't say the truth. And if you're not telling the truth, then that means that you're not seeing what's true in the world around you, and you're certainly not going to interact in the world in a way that's going to be positive or helpful. And if you're not doing any of that, then you definitely are not connecting to any kind of divine force that's going to be useful or helpful to you. So you got to get step by step by step, and you got to build it that way. And if you don't try to build it that way, then it's not going to work, right? Are you safe? Are you having fun? Do you love yourself? Do you love others? Do you at least try to tell the truth? Do you at least try to act positively in the world around you? And are you willing to subordinate yourself to a higher power of any sort? End Palestine aid. I don't want my aid to go towards slaughtering Thai farmers and Tanzanian students. Also for an end to Israeli aid. Okay. It's just an unfortunate name, I gotta tell you. Like, that's it. It's just an unfortunate name. But Bread Bunny writes, "That's so sweet. I hope so. I hope one day I look up to you a lot, and there's my goal to build off of your foundation and beyond. That's very kind of you to say, Bread Bunny. I just consider myself to be sending the information out there, right? I don't even consider myself like I can in this subject. I consider myself to be something of a journeyman. Like I'm definitely not an expert. So that's very kind of you to say." Tucker Carlson released a big video on YouTube about climate change. No, I haven't. I don't. First of all, I don't pay that much attention to Tucker Carlson for the obvious reasons. And I mean, if he just did it a couple hours ago, so I'll take a look. This is some hardcore Dragon Ball Z stuff. That's fucking right. That's goddamn right, Content. I got all my information from Dragon Ball Z. Funnily enough, I actually do think that one of the most useful resources for people just starting into chakra conversation is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I actually do think this is true. That there's a great video on YouTube that you can find if you just type in Avatar: The Last Airbender chakras. You get a 10-minute video of these compilation scenes, and they just go through the chakras and what they are and what they represent, and like it's clean. It's just as clean as it possibly can be. No bullshit, no fat, and they're accurate. They're right. They're like, yeah, that's what it is. So I think that this information is everywhere and can be used everywhere. Certainly Dragon Ball Z does use it, but for like a legitimate starting resource, I think Avatar: The Last Airbender actually does nail it. Faux facon, but landlord makes society go burr. Yeah. No, absolutely, Fafacon. I definitely feel you on this. I should check out this Tucker Carlson video about climate change. Like the climate change denialism that's been going on has been pretty dramatic. Like, especially to me recently, I had a very personal experience with someone recently about that came down to climate change denialism, and I just knew that I couldn't continue the relationship. That if they were going to tell me that climate change was not real, like if you're going to deny the existence of climate change, what else are you denying, right? If you're going to look out into the world and deny that reality exists, then what else are you denying? What other reality are you denying? And it's not going to be too much longer until that kind of denialism is going to rear its head into our relationship, right? I'm not interested in pursuing a relationship with someone who's going to stand there and deny the existence of reality in front of my face. The evidence is so clear, it's so overwhelming in regards to climate change. Like, for God's sakes, like, I don't know what people need to see anymore. Like, I don't know what it's going to take. Like, I really don't know what it's going to take for some of these people before they go like, oh God, like this is a real thing that's actually happening and I was wrong. Like, and the consequences of it are going to be extremely dramatic. Like, I can't tell you how dramatic this stuff is going to be, right? This is from the CBC. 2023 was the hottest year on record by a long shot. 2023 surprised climate scientists, says Deputy Director of EU's Climate Agency. After a year of record-breaking wildfires across Canada and the hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth, it likely comes as no surprise that 2023 was the hottest year on record. According to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, 2023 was 1.48 Celsius warmer than the pre-industrial average from 1850 to 1900, beating out 2016's record of 1.25 Celsius. As we continue to burn fossil fuels and pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, the planet keeps getting warmer. According to the Climate Agency, global CO2 levels were 419 parts per million in 2023, an increase of 2.4 parts per million from the previous year. To put that in perspective, in 1988, the year climate scientist James Hansen warned the US Congress about global warming, it was 351 parts per million, and it's currently increasing at a much faster rate than in the past. But last year's rapid jump in global temperatures had taken even climate scientists by surprise. Last year, it's fair to say, surprised all climate scientists. The sheer number of records that were broken and how they were broken. They were broken by very large amounts, said Samantha Burgess, deputy director of the C3S. Here's a great graph for us to look at. Global surface air temperature anomalies. Boom, boom, boom. So in the first, up until about April, they were still relatively normal, although still on the high end of the recorded spectrums, right? Take a look here. Here's 1951, 1950, 42, right? Up we go. Even here, there's some 70s. Here's 94, right? 1994, right? Like up. Oh, hey, 2001 was actually like kind of on the other side of it. Up. And then we start getting into now it's looking more like the 90s, like 2000s, right? No more 80s or 70s. And then boom, right? And in and around April, May, June, right? So June 1st, and then woof, way off the chart. Way over. Like way overboard. Our expectation was this transition to El Nino, that it would be warmer than 2022, but we weren't sure, particularly at the beginning of the year, until spring. We didn't think it would be as exceptional as it was, she said, and then we saw these record-breaking global temperatures in the summer. Here are just some of the unusual records Earth experienced in 2023, according to C3S. 2023 had a global average temperature of 14.98 Celsius, which was 0.17 Celsius higher than the previous highest average temperature in 2016. 2023 was 0.6 Celsius warmer than the 1991 to 2020 average. C3S says it's likely that a 12-month period ending in January or February in 2024 will see average temperatures exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. 2023 marks the first time on record that every day within a year has surpassed 1 degree Celsius above the 1850 to 1900 pre-industrial average. Almost 50% of those days were more than 1.5 degrees Celsius warmer than the 1850 to 1900 average. 2 days in November were more than 2 degrees Celsius warmer than the pre-industrial average, the first time this has ever occurred. July and August 2023 were the warmest 2 months on record. The meteorological summer, June to August, was also the warmest season on record. NASA and NOAA will release their findings on the global climate on Friday. While there may be a slight variation in their numbers as their methodology differs from that of C3S, it's likely they will be similar. And ultimately, it's the continued upward trend that matters. While the increase of CO2 in the atmosphere is the main driver of climate change, there were other factors involved in 2023, including the overall increase in ocean temperatures, which store roughly 90% of our planet's heat. We saw record sea surface temperatures for the first time of year from April all the way through to December, with sea surface temperatures about half a degree or more warmer than they normally are, Burgess said. And because the ocean is 70% of the surface of the planet, that has a huge impact on global temperatures. I mean, we can just look at this, eh? Like, I can't wait for the Kraken to show up. I think that's going to be my favorite. When the ocean life begins to realize that we're fucking everything up for them, right? And the Kraken shows up. I'm looking forward to it. I hope we get that picture from like a helicopter shooting at like a aircraft carrier and there's tentacles wrapped around it, right? Added to that was the presence of an El Nino, a cyclical and natural ocean variability in the Pacific Ocean, which can cause a rise in global temperatures. However, the effects of an El Nino are typically felt in the subsequent year. So there is a chance that 2024 will be even warmer than 2023. James Hansen, who is now the Director of Climate Science, Awareness, and Solutions at Columbia University, told CBC News in an email that it's likely Earth's average temperature increase will exceed 1.5 over the coming 12-month period. By late spring, it will be in the range of 1.6 to 1.7 degrees Celsius warmer, which is our best estimate for pre-industrial, he said. Debate over a potential acceleration. But not everyone is surprised by last year's record warmth. The warming is within the range we expect from the combined effect of a continued long-term warming, plus a boost from a major El Nino event. Michael Mann, a climate scientist and professor of earth and environmental science at the University of Pennsylvania, told CBC News in an email. And, he said, global warming is continuing at a steady rate of roughly 0.28 degrees Celsius per decade, which is what he observed in 2023. However, NASA and NOAA both suggest that the warming has been closer to 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade. But Hansen, who has continued his research since that 1988 congressional hearing, believes the planet is seeing a rapid shift. It confirms our conclusion that global warming is accelerating, he said, of 2023's record heat. He said the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the leading international authority on the issue, has been assuming that global emissions are near their peak and will begin to decline, as will global warming. Hansen rejects that perspective. The observed record 2023 global temperature, the certainty that it is still higher in 2024, and the unprecedented planetary energy imbalance, more energy coming in than going out, assure that their assumption is hogwash, to use a milder agricultural term than the one I usually use. Burgess says she hopes that people will take notice of this year's record warmth. The more conversations we have about climate, the more we are to see the political action and change, she said. With more warming, we will see more severe climate impacts, she added, including wildfires, droughts, and more intense hurricanes and floods. Hansen, who has been speaking out about climate change for more than 40 years, said that he too would like to see more action. As long as money rules in our governments, and as long as special interests are allowed to buy our politicians, we cannot solve the climate problem, he said. My New Year's resolution is to make the story clear enough to young people and to make young people more aware of their political power, so that within this decade they will be able to take charge of their future, instead of simply protesting against the failure of the older generation. Yeah, I mean, I just caught what you said, right? It's like we're being tested and failing as badly as possible. Yeah, that's my perspective. Like, that humanity does have to go through several checks, right? Do we want to become a spacefaring people? Are we allowed to leave this planet, right? Well, if you're not willing to actually abide by basic kindergarten level rules, right, then you don't get to do that. And it's very simple, right? All this hype about us leaving the planet and going to Mars and colonizing Mars is bullshit. It's so obviously bullshit. We don't know how to terraform our own planet, right? You're telling me that we're going to go to Mars and we're going to terraform a dead rock that has no atmosphere successfully while we actually terraform our own planet? Shut up. It's just an embarrassing position to hold. Like, until we actually get hold of our own our own world and actually learn how to terraform our own world successfully, we're not going fucking anywhere. Not like we might touch down on Mars, but who gives a fuck? Like, oh good, we did a thing that we did 40 years ago, but just with a different planet. Okay, cool. Yeah, oh, we sent a person there to die. Okay, cool. Oh, this is about the Tucker Carlson video. The notes were basically, fossil fuels aren't made from fossils. CO2 is irrelevant. It's all the sun, and we wouldn't do anything about it, and everyone is lying. Oh my god. Like, these people should go to jail. Like, these people should absolutely just go to prison. That what they're doing should be considered a criminal offense. And the fact that they're able to do so openly and flagrantly based on, like, my free speech. Like, no. These people should go to jail for crimes against humanity at the very least. Like, and I'm so tired. Like, every so often I get a person, and I shouldn't say every so often, very recently, I had a person really go after me for this. And it's like, what are you, demented? Like, what are you, fucking demented? You want somebody to be able to plan the Holocaust in front of you, and you're just gonna be like, I guess it's their free speech to do so. Yep, we shouldn't do anything to prevent that. That's a completely normal thing for a person to do. Fuck that. If you're gonna spread climate change denialism into the society, I think you should go to jail. I don't think it's a free speech issue. I don't think it's protected speech. I think that you should go to jail for it. Because it's really, really obvious that it's happening. Like, really, really, really obvious. Painfully obvious. Like, you've got to be like I do think that what it's doing is it's preying on people's fears, and it's preying on the idea that, like, people want to cope. People want to put themselves in a position where they're coping with it, right? They don't want to deal with something like this. Right? People don't want this in their consciousness. And so they want somebody who's going to tell them soothing lies. That's what they want. They want somebody who's going to tell them soothing lies and who are going to let them sleep at night and give them little pats on the head and tell them, no, it's all those leftists, that the big worry that they should have is not that the system that they exist in is not doing anything about something so dramatic as this, but it's that there are people over there that are lying. Right? People over there that are lying, then you can just get into a mindset of like, what a bunch of idiots. Jeez Louise. Can't imagine what it would be like going there. Well, I don't live there. Thank goodness I live here in America. Right? Like, it's, so I think people are just coping. And I think that people like Tucker Carlson are making money off of people coping. Right? And that's how he's making money. People are like, oh, thank God. Someone's here to help me cope. Dollar. Right? So, yeah, I think that climate change denialists should be rounded up and arrested. Like, bare minimum. Like, I think that the executives of the fossil fuel industry who have been lying to us this whole time should go to jail and have their assets removed. Right? And I think that that's the centrist normal position. As soon as you acknowledge that this is a real phenomenon and that it's actually happening, like, the rational position is that the people who are obviously snake oil salesmen and are lying about it for money should go to jail. Like, I don't consider that, like, a far left position. I just consider that, like, basic reason. Like, if you were living in a castle and there were orcs smashing on the door outside, and you went to the leadership and the leadership was saying, no, it's not happening. Yeah, how, you'd be like, I guess it's their free speech, I guess. Yeah, right. Like, get fucking real. Like, how embarrassing. A society that falls down this ridiculous I guess it's their free speech to totally lie to us completely for the destruction of the species. We deserve to be wiped out then. Like, we deserve to be wiped out. And if we're going to do it without a fight, we're not actually going to arrest these guys. We're not actually going to put them in prison. We're not actually going to confront them. We're not actually going to do anything about that. We absolutely deserve to be wiped out completely. Humanity is a dead end. John, I was wondering if you're still going to do a clip from the Michael Hudson Richard Wolff conversation. I mean, Eric, I mean, I found that conversation to be interesting, but like not really illuminating, if you understand me. Like it was nice to see like those two kind of bro down, but like what's the big revelation, you know? You mean we're not supposed to throw our old car batteries into the ocean? Yeah, who knew? A huge problem is the way people are trying to find information, or companies like Google who make it pretty difficult to find good information. Yeah. I mean, like, everybody's incentivized to lie, right? Like, the people are in bed with the fossil fuel industry. The fact that we have managed to get the climate change conversation to where it is now is in spite of the pressure, right? That it's taken like decades. I've watched it happen my whole life. I remember when the conversation that was happening was literally between like a professional expert who PhD scholar who's been studying this his whole life, and like a fresh from high school fossil fuel propagandist, and these were being presented through the media as equivalent voices to be taken seriously equivalently. Right? I remember that period of time, and I remember when places like The Guardian, for example, The Guardian, I think, was the first one to come out and actually say, we're done with that. We are no longer discussing this as if it is a both sides issue, as if it is an issue that where the veracity of climate change is to even be discussed. We're over with that. The evidence is so overwhelming. It is so obviously the case that climate change is real. And we are no longer going to platform some fossil fuel propagandist to stand in front of the nation and pretend to be the equivalent of somebody who has 40 years of expertise as a PhD scholar on the issue. Like, that's over. And it has fallen out from there, so that now what we've ended up with is a handful of media outlets that are willing to actually publish articles about climate change. The majority are just don't publish anything, right? That's what the majority basically do. They just don't publish anything. They don't really talk about it. And then you've got a small handful like Tucker Carlson or all this who are frauds, right? And just lie. So, and the fact that they're allowed to do so in the society should tell you that the society is a failure. And that we're going to careen right into this as hard as possible. The Guardian, Greenland startup begins shipping glacier ice to cocktail bars. Yeah, it's just like childish bullshit. The graph that shows the escalation of global temperature by colored bars is painted as a massive mural on a wall in downtown in my city. It's very heartbreaking. That's the shit to do, though. Like, do that. Put this shit on a mural in the downtown of people's cities. Right? Like, fuck these climate change denialists. Like, fuck these people. Andrew from Russia. Hello. Good to see you, my man. Like, even the Nazis weren't trying to destroy themselves. Right? I've said that over and over and over again. Even the Nazis weren't trying to also destroy themselves. Right? And that's what these people are trying to do. They're not just trying to destroy us. They're trying to destroy themselves. Right? It's completely self-destructive behavior. We should not tolerate it for a moment. For even one single moment. Like, history will 100% look back on climate change denialists with the same kind of ire that they look back on the Nazis. I know for sure that I do. Like, it's just disgusting. It's disgraceful behavior. And it should not be tolerated. While watching a video on YouTube about climate change, YouTube actively recommends a video from a channel called Friends of Science, funded by the fossil fuel industry. Yeah. Hey, John, based on a comment you made on Discord and some of what you said just now, you seem like you may have changed your mind on the death penalty. So I'm wondering what changed your mind. If you don't want to get into any of it now, that's fine. No, I mean, that guy, I think conversations with you certainly helped. And it got me thinking more and more. And I think really the change was as we continued to have those conversations and as we continued to discuss them, and as I continued to chew on that idea, I really began to realize and see that my desire to pursue the death penalty was exclusively coming from an emotional place, from a place of deep emotion, and that I could not actually justify it reasonably. That was really the turning point. That while I think that there is a emotional that kind of emotional catharsis and emotional justification plays, that it's not the final player. It's not the final thing that you get to land your feet on. And that fundamentally allowing the state access to such a powerful tool is always a bad idea. And I began to connect it to something that I've believed my whole life. It was especially true throughout the 90s, or throughout the early 2000s, rather, when the conversation about torture was in place. Sam Harris's defense of torture, for example. And I would always say to myself, torture is by itself immoral. It is wrong to torture someone by its very definition. There is no justification for torture because torture is itself an immoral act. And I began to kind of see that the death penalty carried the same kind of logic, that the death penalty itself is an immoral act, that you might want to do it, and you might even come to see that it would be justified. Like if Adolf Hitler were executed by the state, I wouldn't cry about it, you know. But the truth is that the death penalty is in and of itself such a powerful tool that it certainly will be misused, and it certainly will be mishandled. And a society that opens itself up to that is a society that's going down a fairly dark path indeed, I think, or I've come to think. And yeah, and I think it is the major pivot point for me was the recognition that the death penalty itself is immoral. Not that so long as you believe that an act like torture is fine under certain circumstances, then you can always justify it for your team. You can always justify it for your position, and you can always find that justification. But once you acknowledge and understand that it is immoral in and of itself, by itself, that the people who do it are wrong to do it, no matter what, then that's where my opinion has to change. And yeah, so that was the path. That was the journey for that. That I was speaking from a place of deep emotion on that issue, and I changed my mind because I realized it. Yeah, well, and I do want you to know, that guy, that you played your part in that. Certainly, I know that we went through a bit of a journey together on that particular issue. So I want you to know that there was a positive outcome, and that you were part of that. So thank you. Which scientist did Tucker have on? Jeff Christie. Jeff Christie takes money from the fossil fuel industry. Yeah, his research. No. I'm sorry. As soon as you take money from the fossil fuel industry, you're no longer a researcher. Like we're done. Like we're done. Like you don't get to describe yourself as a researcher if you're taking money from the fossil fuel industry. You're a propagandist. That's who you are, right? Like you don't get to like. I took money from Skeletor, and it says here that Skeletor says that he would be the best leader of Eternia. This is legitimate research. Like, fuck you. Like, get the fuck out of here. No one has any reason to believe anything this guy has to say. And if you do, then you're a gullible dupe. Ugh. Willie Soon. Willie Soon also takes money from the fossil fuel industry. I just wonder if this is the start of a larger trend as the power inevitably switches from Democrats to Republicans. Yeah, the switch over to Republicans is going to be wild this time around, guys. Like, this time around, Donald Trump is going to have like a vendetta. Like, this is the thing. And incidentally, this is how it's going to be presented to us from Donald Trump and his crew. right? The Trumpers are going to present this to us as if it's Donald Trump as like John Wick, right? Like he's gonna go in there and there's gonna be pictures of him with like wind blowing through his suit jacket, and he's like gonna look so powerful and tough. And they're gonna like do drawings of Donald Trump like looking like a badass and like going in there to clean house and like basically anything Donald Trump does is just and Donald Trump is gonna go in there with a fucking mallet, man. Like he's gonna go in there with like a goddamn mallet to smash that place up. And he'll be widely successful, I think. Like that from the documents that I have read on this channel and otherwise, like they know exactly what it is they want to do. They know exactly how they want to change things. They know exactly what they're going to pursue, and I think that they're going to do so with viciousness. I don't think that they're going to be nice about it, like, because I think that it's personal this time. Like that's the thing, is that when Donald Trump won the first time, it was all just a cavalcade of chaos. That even Donald Trump was like, what the fuck happened? What? I guess I'll just cut my own taxes and go golfing. You know? But the way that the Democrats and the way that the system has gone after him, it's going to be absolutely personal. It's going to be absolutely personal this time. And he's and the level of climate change denialism that exists within that organization is pretty intense. Oh, my Chromebook just reset for no reason. So sorry, Twitch stream, if I don't read your comments. I'll be back in a moment. That's really dumb. Technology is so dumb. It's so great that we like have hinged everything on all this lame technology that fails just at any moment. Literally just like, yeah, I'm just going to shut off. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. Because I wanted to. Eat it. Shut up. I don't care. You're like, okay, thanks technology. Like recently my phone straight out just crapped out. I lost all my contacts. I lost everything, right? Because the phone just decided to like, I'll just reset myself to basic hardware. Yeah, just going to reset, right? I lost contacts. I lost all kinds of stuff. Because, so like, I'm getting to the point now where I'm just going back to pen and paper and just writing it all down again, because it's just fucking nonsense. Tumbo Bummington. Is this a real name? Tumbo Bummington? Like, how is this a person? Tumbo Bummington says, look at Harvard researcher Willie Soon says climate change is a hoax. Yeah, Tumbo won't tell us where Willie gets his funding. Yeah, and then if you go through the arguments, they're always bullshit. Would you support Donald Trump? No. I don't support the electoral system in America. Like I don't see electoral politics as a way to resolve the crises that are in front of us. Like, you can go ahead and go vote, right? Go vote communist, right? Never under any circumstances vote Democrat or Republican, right? Don't sell yourself out like that. Like, if you feel like you need to go vote communist. If there isn't a communist on the ballot, write the word communist in. But, like, under no circumstances are you supposed to be voting like Republican, Democrat, Conservative, Liberal, or NDP or any of that. Like, they're not providing solutions. They're not, and moreover, they're not interested in providing solutions, right? That the entire thing is like a WWE wrestling show, like that you're supposed to believe this is real fighting. Yeah, okay, we'll get right on that. So, I mean, I just don't demonize Trump the way that Democrats do, because I see Donald Trump and Joe Biden as equals. Right? They're allies, really. They work together to achieve objectives collectively. Like, so I'm not like Joe Biden is just a more effective grifter, frankly. Donald Trump is just sort of a ham-handed, red-faced or orange-faced, I guess, kind of rich guy, you know? Like, he's just got a lot of bluster, and he knows how to work an audience, but like, he's not superior to Joe Biden. And Joe Biden's certainly not superior to him. Like, Joe Biden's literally running like a genocide campaign in Palestine right now, straight up purging Gaza. Mayday writes, Joe Biden is against gun control while Trump's in favor. I look, I just don't think it matters. Like, they're allies, right? They work together to achieve collective goals. So maybe when one of them is in power, some issue will move forward half a tick or a tick, right? But then the other one gets in power and regresses it by 2 ticks because they're allies that work together, right? As soon as you understand this, as soon as you actually understand this, and you're not just hearing the words, as soon as you put it into your consciousness and you begin to perceive the world this way with this kind of understanding, things crystallize and make a lot more sense very quickly, right? Like, you can hear me say this. You can hear me say that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are allies that work together to achieve collective goals. You can hear me say it. But then you'll just go right on back to Democrat versus Republican. You'll just go right on back to that mode of thinking. As soon as you understand that they are allies that work together, then you can begin to see that, like, yeah, of course, like, Joe Biden will push forward an agenda that's pro-worker by 0.1% or something, because he knows that when the Republicans get in, they'll regress it by 2 points, right? They know this. And so they just play off of each other in order to galvanize the populace, to separate and divide the populace for the benefit of capital. It's so obvious and clear that that's what they're doing, right? And if you get caught up in the, like, well, but Joe Biden did, and then Donald Trump did, oh, lesser of two evil, all that kind of stuff, then you're playing their game and you're losing, right? That's exactly, like, it's a one party state, and the one party has 2 wings. That's it. No, no, Mayday. Like, no, you're fundamentally misunderstanding the character of the electoral system. You're fundamentally misunderstanding it. Joe Biden is not more pro-feminist. Joe Biden understands that there is a section of the electorate that is pro-feminist. And he understands that in order for him to get power and for him to attain power and seize power, it is good to play to those feminists, right? He understands that. And then he might also understand that it's good that when he's in office that he's going to put forward a piece of legislation that looks pro-feminist or has this pro-feminist bent. But he understands implicitly and fundamentally that when he leaves office, a Republican will come in and regress those policies. And so Joe Biden's job is not to push forward an agenda that is pro-feminist and to make things more pro-feminist. It's to maintain the status quo as it is now, pretend as though it is difficult to push forward legislation, put forward a little bit of legislation in order to convince the base, because who else are you going to vote for? Convince the base that they have nowhere else to go and that there's no alternative, right? And then when the Republicans get in, what do the Republicans do? They push forward a whole shit ton of legislation instantly, because pushing forward legislation isn't actually hard, right? Like, you need to organize, like, there's a job to it, but the actual act of actually doing it is actually easy, right? But that's not what the job of the Democrat is. The job of the Democrat is to maintain the status quo, to create a barrier, to say that we will not progress any further than this line in the sand. And then to finally say, oh, okay, I guess, sure, fine, okay, fine, sure, okay, we'll move this much further. Literally, right? And then the Republican comes in and goes, So the whole thing is a game. It's a vanity project for Joe Biden. It's a vanity project for Donald Trump on behalf of the actual ruling class of America, which is the billionaire class, the ownership class. That's what the system is actually about, and that's how the system has organized itself. It's not actually there to respond to the electorate. And we can see very clear examples. We can see very, 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 very clear examples. Like, the electoral system and the system of electoral politics in America does not respond to the electorate. Like, very, 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 very rarely does it actually respond to the electorate. But so it's a system that operates on behalf of the ruling class, the asset holding class, the billionaire class exclusively. It's not interested in responding to the needs of the people or the desires of the people or the wants of the people. That's not what it's there for. It's not what it's interested in doing, right? And as long as you continue playing this game, as long as you continue playing this game that the electoral system will respond to the needs of the people, even though there's zero evidence to show that it does, then you're just going to constantly get caught in its grift and its game. And the game is vote blue no matter who. You've got nowhere else to go. There's no other strategy. There's nothing else that you can pursue. Even though that's objectively false. There's very clearly things that you can pursue and things that you can organize under and things that you can do. They just don't want you to do it because those things are actually effective and actually work. And as long as you're unwilling to do those things, and as long as you're unwilling to organize outside of the system of electoral politics, then they're winning. And they're always going to win. Right? Because that's the way the system's rigged. The system's designed to be this way. And it doesn't matter who you put in power. It doesn't matter who you get into what position. Like, it literally doesn't matter. Like, you can have your AOCs and your Bernies and all this all you want and kind of jerk off about how great it is to have these voices in, even though they're just playing a part, right? Even though they know the grift and they understand how the job works. They understand that they're supposed to be Hulk Hogan. They get it, right? That people need people to root for within the system for the system to pretend as though it has credibility when it obviously does not, right? You need people to actually stand up and be like, oh, goodness, there are actually things here we can do. Continue funneling your energy into this dead system of electoral politics that actively exists to abandon you. It doesn't exist to help you. It never did and it never will. It's a dead, calcified system. Like, the Constitution needs to be redrawn completely. The entire thing has failed and will continue to fail because it's designed to fail you. That's the purpose. It exists to uphold the wealth of a asset holding class exclusively and for no other reason. It does not exist to ensure that people have rights. It does not exist to ensure that people have access to clean water or clean air or health care. It does not exist in order to ensure that you get an equitable wage. It does not exist for these things, and nobody within the system will ever provide those things for you, ever, under any circumstances, 0% chance. The only time the system of electoral politics has ever responded to the needs of the people is when the people have surrounded the halls of power and demanded it. That is the only form of organization that the electoral system respects or understands. And so to do anything else is to waste your time completely. And I don't care who's in office. Who is in office is extremely irrelevant. It does not matter even a little bit. One of the person who is jokingly called the last liberal president, right? Richard Nixon, like an obvious genocidal maniac, right? Just a total psychopath who's completely interested in destroying human life wherever he goes, right? Well, he put in the Environmental Protection Act. Right? Do you think he did that because he was a nice man? You think he did that because he was trying to help people? No, he did that because there were thousands of people outside of his door. Like, that's the only way that things actually happen in this dead, calcified system that has failed you. You're not going to vote blue no matter who. Like, it's not going to work, right? That the period of time when the Democrats are in power is going to be marked by genocide and war, and domestically they're just going to do fuck all, right? They're going to do fucking nothing. Maybe the policies that they'll put in will be an improvement by 0.2% or something. Just like the most itsy bitsy little tiniest, itsy bitsiest little thing, right? That will get regressed the minute the Republicans take power. Because that's the game. That's how it works. So stop, please, God, stop pretending. Stop putting Biden and Trump side by side and saying that I've got to pick between one of these two guys, because the answer is no, I don't. No, I absolutely do not. That what we should be doing is organizing outside of that failed system, not giving a shit who's elected because it doesn't matter, and actually putting pressure on those people by surrounding the halls of power with millions and millions of people. That's how things actually happen in America, right? And until the Constitution is redrawn, until we actually wrest it out of the hands of literal slaveholders, who are the people who are responsible for making these documents and making this system, then the only time anything is ever going to happen is when the halls of power are surrounded by millions of people, because that's the only thing that's ever worked ever in the history of America ever. So I don't give a shit. Vote Trump, vote Biden, it doesn't matter to me. I certainly don't. Like, if I go in the booth, I put down communist, and I'm going to continue doing that. Omnicidal tendencies writes, a centralized government structure is any better. I mean, it sort of depends on who actually has control of that structure, right? Like, right now, it's a dictatorship of capital. That's the reason why it fails. It doesn't respond to the people, right? Whereas the theory under the communist idea is that you erect a dictatorship of the proletariat, dictatorship of the workers, and purposefully exclude the capitalists from it. Because capitalists are only interested in their own wealth, right? They're not interested in building a society or building anything, and they'll tell you so. So why should they have any say in what happens in the electoral system at all? Right-wing libertarians, yeah. Debating a friend of mine about climate change. Oh, yeah. He thinks I picked the Industrial Revolution as an arbitrary point in time. Look, these guys don't want to be convinced. Like, it is time for us to stop wasting our time. Like, if they are not going to respond to this, if this is not going to penetrate, then it's over. Right? Then it is over. Like, you can't reason with people like this. And that's genuinely true. Like, there are people who have just detached from reality completely, and who will just continue to detach from reality. They will watch their cities burn down. They will watch as droughts spread. They'll watch all this happen, and they'll blame immigrants. Right? Like, they just cannot cope with the idea or the reality that that they might have been partially responsible for the earth itself turning against them. It's just not part of the way that their brain can compute information or think. Like, they're not actually using their brain. Like, I think that this is important for us to like they are let's bring it into very early on. We were talking about the chakras, right? Well, if you are living in a place of your root, if you're living in your root chakra, right, and you're living in a place where you feel unsafe, or you feel threatened, or you feel like you're disrupted, or any of that kind of stuff, you're not living in your brain, right? Nothing's getting in there, right? You're just basically a scared little monkey scrabbling around, trying to and that views everything as a threat. So Like it's like if you're not going to allow basic information in, then it's over for you. And I think my advice for you, Eric, is to just disengage from these people. Right? Like don't waste your time on it. Don't spend your whole fucking life grinding against something that's not going to move. Right? Disengage, leave, get out of it. Because you're not going to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced and who has doubled down on just lunacy. And at this point it is lunacy. Like there's no other way to describe it. Like it's a type of mental disorder, it's a type of mental illness. There's something wrong going on with them. Right? Get away. Leave. Because if they're going to deny that, then there's nothing they won't deny. Right? That they will literally pull a knife up and stab it into your belly and say that they didn't do it. If that's the level of disparity that they have with reality around them. Like, I do not think I'm being heavy-handed about this. Like, I don't think I'm being hyperbolic, or I don't think I'm even on the left, let alone the far left, on this issue. There is extraordinarily clear evidence that climate change is happening. Every single person who has ever looked at the data, outside of the people who are funded by the people causing the problem, have said that this phenomenon is happening. That the only debate that exists within the circles of people who acknowledge the existence of the phenomenon is how rapidly it's happening. That's the only real debate that's actually going on. And I mean, yeah, this is why I take a very strong stance. Like Andrew writes, the media drives people crazy. It's hard to remain critical of the situation. Yeah, I think that the people who are denying the existence of climate change professionally, certainly not Bill who drinks beer in your pub and is just like, climate change is a Chinese hoax. Certainly not that guy, but definitely people who are publishing newspapers. Like if they're denying climate change at this point, I think that they should go to jail, and I think that should be just clearly understood. Like it's not different than treason. They are trying to destroy us. But some scientists say the Earth is getting colder. Who? Like who? Like who? And by what measurement? Like it's just clownish at this point. No. I want a name, and I want his credentials, and I want the name of the article that he published that got peer-reviewed. No. I'm not interested in looking up, like, some fucking guy in Nebraska named Bill Ackerson, has a PhD in fuck all nothing, right? Measured his dog's asshole. Like, no. I want to know the name of the institution that he's a part of. I want to know his credentials, and I want to know the name of the article. And if you're not going to present it, then I'm not fucking interested. You are this close to getting banned off of my platform. I want you to know that. I take this one exceedingly seriously. I will not tolerate climate change denialism in my chat. I consider it to be worse than Nazism. You understand? I consider it to be worse than Nazism. So if you're going to come in here with your climate change denialism bullshit, I'm going to fucking nail your ass to the wall. Is he a Harvard scientist? What's his PhD in? Does he have 50 years of study? What's his peer-reviewed paper? And if you can't provide this, shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ, man. It's just fucking wild to me. Like, we've got a guy like James Hansen, right? We literally just read this article. James Hansen, he's been doing this for 40 fucking years. PhD scholar, works for NASA, right? It's literally his job. And what we're doing is putting up against him like, my cousin Philippe, from Nebraska, she thinks things are getting colder. Fuck you. Just learned John Pilger died on December 30th. I don't really remember who John Pilger is. It's not jumping into my mind. Like, I can't even be fucking like... I can't even get into a place of despair about this shit anymore. Like how fucking cartoonish are we? Like, how fucking cartoonish are we as a people? Oh, Bread Bunny doing the work. If you type in Earth getting colder, Google itself says... Like, I just think that we just don't have any standards as a people anymore. Like, we've got no standards. Like, we're literally willing to listen to, like, well, fuck, we're willing to listen to Donald Trump. Like, we're willing to, like, just throw our chips in with just whoever. Like, what does Miley Cyrus think about the Gaza Strip massacre? Like, there's no such thing as experts anymore. Nobody gives a shit. A new study reaffirming that global climate change is human-made also found the upper atmosphere is cooling dramatically because of the rising... Oh, so like the upper atmosphere. Like... God. So like the fucking upper atmosphere. Like, it's not going to have an effect on what we experience. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, I'm so exhausted by this shit. Like, I am. I'm so exhausted by this shit. Like, people are fucking doing everything they can to cope with this shit. Like, doing everything they fucking can to cope with this shit. It's exhausting. Yeah, thanks, methane. Like, because the heat stays in, maybe? Like, people just grasping on to, like, a little tiny scrap of information off in the top left-hand corner and being like, that's the universal truth of everything. That means everything's fine. Everything's cooling. This is contrary information. Yeah. No. UV radiation come in. Stay inside. Can't get out carbon. Other side of carbon get colder. Because no heat coming. Earth cook. Why? Carbon. UV radiation come in to Earth. Cook. Earth, heat leave. Earth go, heat bye-bye. Bye-bye heat. Uh-oh, carbon. Carbon. Crust of carbon. Keep heat in. Heat no leave. Other side of carbon? Colder. You've just, like, eliminated from the discourse CO2 from the conversation completely. Just CO2 doesn't exist. The entire effect, like the way the whole thing happens, right? The way the entire thing happens is that UV radiation comes into the Earth. For billions of years, this was fine because the Earth was also giving away UV radiation. It was just going like, yep, heat dissipation. Heat comes in, heat goes out. Heat comes in, heat goes out. Heat comes in, heat goes out. What's changed? We started burning fossil fuels and spewing carbon into the atmosphere. the heat can't leave. The heat stays in. And so if the story is that the upper atmosphere is colder, well, yeah. Because the heat's not leaving. Right? Like the heat's coming in at the same rate, but the heat's not leaving. And so the upper atmosphere is getting colder. Is this going to affect the wind and the cold? No. Why? Because there's a fucking layer of carbon that's keeping the UV radiation in and is cooking us. Like, come on. Like, this is just fucking hopium at this point. Just, yeah, we could just keep burning fossil fuels. It's fine. See, the thing is getting... This has big, like, if climate change is real, then why did it snow today? Vibes. Yeah. Beck's 1917, as a Gen Z, seeing all this climate denial is scary. Yeah, it's terrifying. Right? It is terrifying. Like, I think that a lot of it is just coming down to cope. Like, I think that people are just trying to find a way to cope with it because they know that the system is not responding rationally. They know that the system is not going after the fossil fuel industry. They know that they're not doing anything, right? Yeah. We just went through it, Mayday. That's fine. Yeah. No, I mean it's the warmest January everybody has had. It's the warmest record. It's the warmest year on record. like, like I don't know what. Like you grab hold of whatever you need to grab hold of, I guess. But stop bringing it in here. Not interested. Like. Jeez, the fucking wheeze, man. And what makes it annoying is that people are just gonna get dumber. Like that's it. Like people are just gonna get dumber about it, right? Like and I think the people who are gonna get the dumbest, like the dumbest people, are gonna be the people who are like hardcore denialists, right? Like Tucker Carlson, right? Like these guys. Like as it gets more and more obvious that it's happening, and as the negative consequences get more and more clear, right? Like people are just gonna get stupider. And they're just going to get stupider and stupider. Yeah. Many people believe that protecting the environment is a commercial interest. Like, obviously protecting the environment is a commercial interest, right? Like if you don't have a... You can't sell anything in a market that's freaking out and panicking and fleeing from disaster. You can't grow crops in ground that's no longer capable of producing crops. Like there's all kinds of commercial interests. Anytime there's been a study on this particular issue, it's been it's very, very clear. Like anytime, yeah, the environment provides billions in free services. Good to see you, Santora. Like the negative consequences of us ignoring climate change are going to cost us so much more than it would to confront it. So much more. Right? Like it's already going to cost us. Protecting the environment could be a market propaganda to decrease production and consumption of junky food in order to increase vegetable consumption. So it's big veg. Dude, I'm good. We're gonna put you in timeout for 24 hours. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Fucking climate change denial coping bullshit. Like Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, it's big veg. That's what's doing it. Certainly not the fossil fuel industry. Certainly not the driver of literally the entire fucking economy. Like, god damn, man. Just the fucking cope. I can't take it. I can't. Like, I'm literally cutting people out of my personal life over this particular issue. And we got a guy in here being like, you know, everything's getting colder, actually, because I got one article that showed the upper atmosphere is getting colder because the heat of the Earth isn't actually heating it anymore. But so everything's fine. Great. Cool. I just think it's cope. That's all. Like, people don't want to understand. It's not even about, like, whether or not they do. It's that they just don't want to. Because understanding it is, like, dramatically terrifying. Right? Especially now. Especially now that it's basically unavoidable. Right? And so I just feel like this next year and these next couple of years are going to be just, like, just full of stupid people. Just stupid, stupid, stupid people. Because they have to be stupid. John denies the existence of the vegan cabal. You got me, dude. That's right. The vegan cabal, that definitely exists, for sure. Oh, how could I possibly be a denialist? People don't talk very often about how fear distorts the scientific process. Well, one of the things I've observed is that most scientists are pretty conservative about their estimates, right? We could see that reflected here in this article, right? 2023 surprised all climate scientists, right? Because they're all being extremely conservative because they want to believe that we're going to be able to turn this corner, and we're not. Like, there's no sign. There's no signs of life. There's no signs of intelligent life, certainly in humanity, right? We're basically just careening headfirst into this, and while we're careening headfirst into this, we got to put up with people being like, it's actually okay because things are getting colder, actually. Like, man. And, like, it's especially going to get bad because the fossil fuel industry executives are beginning to understand that they're going to actually face consequences. Like, they are already facing lawsuits. Like, lawsuits are happening already. People are putting it forward. People are getting organized, and they are doing these sorts of things. So they know that they already are going to face consequences. And so they're completely incentivized to fund as much as they can to find any angle they possibly can to try to con anybody into thinking that everything's actually fine, or we couldn't have possibly known, even though our own scientists back in the 70s said that this was the case. Like, so we're going to go through, like, while we're going through the Trump years and the Polyev years, right, we're going to go through a society that's just going to be the dumbest it possibly can. It's going to be very dumb. Like, really, really, really dumb. And I'm going to be here to try to make us not so fucking stupid. Because it's going to be so stupid, you guys. It's going to be full of just stupid guys thinking they're super smart. Right? The way they do. They're just going to swagger in here with I've got a piece of evidence directly funded by the fossil fuel industry that shows that climate change is a hoax, even though yesterday was the hottest day on record. Oh, yeah, okay, champ. Like, and then we'll see the mental gymnastics, and we'll see people bending over backwards, and see the way that people want to actually try to make it all happen. John, is there any place to escape the stupidity? Right here. You come here to the Canadian Commie, and we will have a non-stupid conversation about how fucking stupid everything has gotten. And it's tough because it's intentional. Like, that's the biggest part about it that I think is worth talking about, is that the stupidity is intentional at this point. Like it's not us actually legitimately being like, I got the darker. Like that's not what's happening. It's that we are making the clear-minded decision that it's better to be stupid than it is to be correct in this particular case. That politicians, professionals, high-level people have decided clearly that it's best to be stupid and to play dumb. And that's what's making it the worst, is that it's just intentional. It's intentionally stupid. Which again is why I think that the people who spread around this disinformation should go to jail. Very clearly. Methane writes, the big conflict I have in all of this is that everyone's completely off the rails thinking we're going to fix it with technology and more different production. Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, I think, dude, are you kidding me? The worst one I saw today was somebody, yeah, check this out. Okay, here's a real article that's a real thing. It's coming from phys.org, right? Physics.org. Uncertainty abounds in seeding the sky to fight climate change, says study. As greenhouse gas levels increase in Earth's atmosphere, scientists are considering ways to temporarily limit rising temperatures. One idea is to inject aerosols into the stratosphere to reflect incoming sunlight, thereby reducing global warming and its associated risks. Most previous research was focused on using gaseous sulfur dioxide, which is also released in volcanic eruptions. However, the injection of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere is associated with side effects including ozone depletion and local stratospheric heating. Recent studies have shown that the use of solid materials such as alumina, calcite, or even diamond particles could more effectively cool the climate while simultaneously reducing these side effects. However, there is limited understanding of how solid material injections affects the stratospheric ozone layer. The current understanding is based on scant, decades-old experimental data on alumina particles emitted into the stratosphere via solid fuel space rocket exhaust. In new research published in Geophysical Research Letters, Sando Vattioni and his colleagues show that stratospheric conditions resulting from space shuttle exhaust plumes are not comparable to alumina injection scenarios for climate intervention. They found that although alumina injection may have an advantage over sulfur dioxide in terms of reduced local stratospheric heating, there are significant uncertainties in estimating such injections' impact on the ozone layer. The scenarios they tested would inject about 5 megatons of alumina particles into the stratosphere per year, which would compensate for about a quarter of the present-day radiative forcing caused by anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. The researchers estimated that the global mean ozone loss for these scenarios could range from negligible to as much as 9%. Which is about twice the historical peak of ozone loss from chlorofluorocarbons in the 1990s. The author notes that more research is needed on the potential surface reactions to solid particles in the atmosphere. In particular, this means learning more about the surface reactions under the present and future stratospheric conditions with respect to temperature, trace gas concentrations, and relative humidity. Providing this understanding could help reduce the uncertainty over how solid particles might have been when injected into the stratosphere for climate interventions. These people are fucking stupid. This is the dumbest shit that I think that I have ever read, ever. Like, you want to talk about what's discrediting the scientific community? Let's take sulfur dioxide and put it in the stratosphere. No consequences. No consequences. Wait, don't plants need sunlight to grow? Ah. Yeah, can't wait till we block out the sun. Yeah. What was the name of what was the name of that what was the name of that what was the name of the fluid in idiocracy makes plants grow? Like, what's the name of it? It's got electrolytes. Brondo. Brondo has what plants crave. It's got electrolytes. Big Brondo energy right here. Big Brondo energy. Some scientists try so hard not to displease their capitalist overlords. Thoughts on the chemtrails conspiracy? I don't, bro. Like, the chemtrails shit is like that. Really pause, okay? Like, do yourself a big favor here, Mikhail. Okay? Really pause and think about how many people would need to be involved in that. Like, conspiracy theories usually die on this point. Like, how many people would actually need to be involved in that process? And, like, spreading chemicals over like, I just think that there would be a whistleblower, you know? Like, I feel like there would be, like, a really, like, yeah. I just don't, and moreover, I'm just like, I just don't understand the actual benefit of it, you know? Like, that's another thing that always happens, right? Like, what's the actual benefit of doing this? Like, that eventually there comes a point where, like, the most psychopathic grifter that exists in the world is also like, I too also breathe this air, you know? So, like, the idea that it's like, we're going to put chemicals in the atmosphere and that'll control the pop. It's like, yeah, okay, but you're out and about walking, breathing this air too, you know, you fucking Machiavellian psycho, right? And XD, I think, has kind of nailed it. Like, we don't need to jump to, like, some big other conspiracy. Like, we're poisoning ourselves just fine, you know? Anything but addressing fossil fuels. Yeah, wasn't this one of the storylines in The Matrix? Yeah. I also expect this would cause massive amounts of vitamin D deficiency, making everyone's immune systems less effective, decreasing demand for pharmaceuticals and other oil products. Haven't we hit peak oil anyway? Like, we've got, like, 50 years. Yeah, I know. We're not very smart, right? Like, we're not an intelligent people. Like, an intelligent people would be like, oh, shit, this is happening? Oh, okay, well, let's begin the process of mitigating, and let's begin transferring our power grid over to something else. Let's begin R&D, and let's begin, like this is... and it would have happened on the day. It literally would have been, like, person responsible for... Because if we were actually irrational people, we wouldn't allow a private interest to have control of the fossil fuel supplies. That, first of all, that should show you how stupid we are. Yeah, we'll just let some private owner... a king... the fossil fuel king. You are owner of all the fossil fuels. Whatever you want to do with all of the fossil fuels, we won't make any laws or anything. You are the king of fossil fuels because, check notes, efficiencies. No, says so right here. Brondome gets what plants crave. So if we were a rational people, capable of it, capable of the intellectual necessity of actually grabbing a hold of the issue, we would the person who had been put in the position to be responsible for the fossil fuels would go, oh shit, this is causing a thing called global warming. Yeah, the carbon is going into the atmosphere and it's capturing UV radiation and it is heating the planet. So I'm going to go alert the Congress, Senate, presidency, whatever body that exists, and we're going to have a big conversation about what we can do about that. And we're all going to talk about it like adults and make a transition that makes sense, right? That would have happened in the 70s. Like, that would have been like, yeah, okay. Like, if we were capable of intellectual, rational discourse. But because we're like, Brondo has what plants crave. These paper dollars let me go to Epstein's Island and have sex with little girls. That's what I want. I don't give a shit about the planet. Who cares? Like... like, this is... we humanity is a dead end. If we're lucky, we're going to create something that actually persists for some length of time. There'll be like some robot in a room or something that'll be like, yes, the humans made me before they killed themselves. Like, that's like our best case scenario, right? And but I actually think the most likely thing is that this place is just going to desertify itself, right? We're going to do some shit like this, where we're going to seed the stratosphere with bullshit, and it's just going to cause all kinds of problems. The Earth is just going to turn into a desert ball. It's just going to, okay, we're a desert ball now, no more food for all of you, right? So you all go away, because you're obviously a problem, right? And it's just going to reiterate. Right? It'll grow new plants, it'll grow new life, it'll grow a new thing, it'll go through a whole thing, and it'll be like, okay, yep, we're going through the process again. Right? And something will come up, and it'll be like octopi or like cockroaches, right? And they'll be and they'll be like, hey, we got all this fossil fuel, let's burn the fossil. Oh my goodness, climate change. Well, we got to do something about that. Yeah, no, we can't just kill ourselves. Yeah, you're right. There's like the ultimate Homo sapien. Kind of a proto-fascist name to begin with, gotta be honest. I'm the ultimate Homo sapien. Okay, sure, bud. Let's all listen to what the ultimate Homo sapien has to say. There's a theory that says it's a Chinese project to warm up Earth. Why? You know what, man? Let's entertain this. This is so stupid that I'm kind of in the mood for it. Let's go. To what benefit is it for the Chinese to warm up the planet? How does that benefit the Chinese? Like, as soon as you take off the xenophobic, kind of xenophobic lens of, like, be afraid of China because they're Chinese, you really realize how dumb that idea is. Like, once you actually start thinking about the Chinese as if they're people, you know, as if they're just humans and they're just, like, going about being humans, like the rest of us, then you can start asking some, like, really, really basic, easy questions that aren't rooted in xenophobia, where you basically just go, like, wait a minute, how does that benefit China at all? Like, what possible scenario could exist in which this idea benefits China? Because it's only something that makes sense if you think China is like Skeletor or Sauron or something, right? It only makes sense if you're like, they want to turn the world into a Luciferian hellwaste so they can govern like demons from hell. Nah, like, that's dumb. Like, what possible benefit does this have? Oh, it's a Chinese-Russian partnership to destroy themselves. Oh. China's a big, powerful country. Don't you think the communists would and can plan something directly affect and weaken capitalism? China profit communism? Like, bro, no. Like, big. I'm gonna really, really put my boot down on this one, and you're gonna see why what you're saying is exceptionally silly, right? Like, weakening capitalism, all that kind of stuff, sure, right? Like, interesting talking points. Okay, here's a hefty dose of some hardcore reality for you. All of this land is low-lying land. Literally all of it. One of the major consequences of heating the planet, heating the planet is that all of this ice gets to melt. See how there's all this ice? Look at the ice. Antarctica, the Great Ice Wall. If you're a fucking flat earther, ice wall, right? Big Antarctic, lots of ice. If all of the ice in Antarctica melted, the water level would go up 70 meters, right? So if the water goes up 1 meter, okay? Forget 70 meters. If the water goes up 1 meter, right? If the earth goes up, if the water goes up 1 meter, all of this is going to get flooded. All of this. Oh, is the ultimate hope as Homo sapien a flat earther? Bro, I can't think of a better way to discredit yourself. Like, I can't. I recently had like a conversation with a flat earther, and initially I was like, this seems kind of harmless, but more and more I've absolutely come to see that if you believe in flat eartherism, then you're just a gullible rube. There's nothing you won't believe, right? Get the fuck right out of here with this idea. The earth is actually flat even though we've taken a picture of it. That the Soviets put a satellite in, that Sputnik, it was the first to go around the Earth, right? Like, it's just so obviously round. Like, it's so embarrassing that it's even something that we have to talk about that I'm not going to. We've taken pictures of it. There's a satellite going around the planet right now that is taking pictures of Earth right now. It's not flat. And so if your argument is it's flat, you're dumb and wrong. And I'm not interested in talking to you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You're stupid. Stop wasting everybody's time. Like, Jesus fucking Christ with this shit. Like, Jesus fucking Christ with this shit, dude. Like, we're so fucking done, eh? Like, we're so fucking done. Ugh. Like, literally, there is a satellite on... I don't know the website for it. But, like... Satellite link taking pictures of Earth. Feel like this exists. Yeah, Canon's new website will let you take pictures of Earth from satellite. HD satellite map. Let's try that. Eyes on the Earth. It's probably just straight up NASA, right? Has a new bookshelf asks, is there a real possibility that indigenous population territories from Canada secede in the future? It is actually possible. I don't think it's going to be likely soon, but I think it is possible. There have already been secessions that have happened in the United States. No, this is nothing. This is not what I'm looking for. Like... Dude, man, I am putting, like, hard passes on, like, flat earther, climate change denial, Zionist apologetics, Nazi apologetics. Like, I just am not interested. Like, too stupid to talk to. Oh my God. Holy, wait a minute, you guys. There are satellites There are satellites going all around the Earth right now. Holy fucking shit. Wait a minute. And you know what the flat earther is going to say? It's like, this just propaganda. Why in the name of God? Here's the thing that the flat earthers can never actually respond to, outside of some vague, like, they're just trying to control us. Why on God's green earth would they ever pretend like the earth was round when it was flat? Where's the benefit at all to it? Even a little tiny bit. Even a little tiny bit. Oh my God, the North Pole's actually a big giant black hole. Oh my God. Like what to what end? For what benefit? To benefit who? To do what? Like, it's just too stupid. And we're just going to be inundated with stupidity as we move forward. And I'm just not going to tolerate flat earth stupidity. Right? So let's do a pivot. Now seems like a nice time to pivot away from this climate change nonsense and this flat earth nonsense. Like, yeah. Let's blame the Chinese, too. Like, that's my favorite, dude. What could it possibly benefit the Chinese and the Russians? Because it'll go against capitalism and it'll benefit communism. It's literally going to flood China. Like, China is actually going to be one of the major stories coming out of climate change. Like, I'm blown away that the people of China themselves are not ringing this alarm bell more. Because all of this is getting flooded. Like, all of this is getting flooded. Like, this is all low-lying land. Like, there's the fucking coast. You know, here's Wenzhou, right? Like, what, you think that the water coming up a meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 5 meters, 10 meters, 70 meters isn't gonna fucking matter? To Wenzhou? Yeah, it's gonna fucking matter. There's a new conspiracy I've been hearing a bit in some circles lately. Archaix? I don't know how to pronounce this. It's wild and incredibly complex. Well, that's the thing about a lot of these conspiracy theories, right? They have to be complex, right? They've got to be like this enormous, unpenetrable labyrinth, because it's got to take people forever to actually wind and weave through to be able to get through the other side to make any sense of it. Because the truth is that, like, the truth is usually relatively simple, right? That what I have been confronting in the work that I do is not that it's complex. It's people's unwillingness to believe it. That's what I've been running into. The truth is usually very straightforward, and is usually very simple, and is very clear to understand, and is very clear to present. There's not so much complexity in it. It's just whether or not people are going to believe it is what I've been running into. And when you live in a society where people believe angels are real, or the earth is flat, or that climate change isn't happening, then there is no evidence that you can show people. Yeah, it's got all the hallmarks. It's even beyond the crazy paper covered with pins and strings. Yeah, like these things are not that difficult. I think that there is like a good deal of obfuscation. Like when I was a kid, like I think one of the things that really screwed up the conversation for me growing up was the idea that there was this like clandestine society called the Illuminati. And I like wasted a lot of time on that, when really it's like, open up the Financial Times. Like, just read the Financial Times. Like, as soon as you start reading the Financial Times, you're like, oh yeah, no, there's no fucking Illuminati. It's just these rich cocksuckers getting together and talking. That's it. Like, and are there rich cocksuckers in your society? Of course there are. They're in you can read them. They're in the Financial Times. Oh, this totally reminds me, guys. I've been man, this is what I want to do right now. Yeah. So I pay a lot of attention to who the richest Canadian is, right? The richest 10 Canadians, right? Because I think it's interesting. And recently, there is a Canadian that really jumped up on the chart, right? And his story is so cartoonishly evil. Like, super villain-esque. Like, all he needs to do is, like, build a space laser, and he's basically there. I just really need to share this with you guys. Here you go. So it's been David Thompson and the Thompson family, Taylor Thompson and Peter Thompson. It's been the Thompson family for like forever. And I actually think that what they did here was a bit genius. That it used to only be David Thompson, but now they've broken up the wealth between the four of them, so that instead of it all pooling under David Thompson, it's actually four names now instead of just one name. Because David Thompson, I actually think that he's an incredibly intelligent... Like, the Thompsons are, I think, very, very intelligent. They're much, much smarter than American billionaires. Because they understand that one of the major things that a billionaire should do is stay out of the public view, right? People should not know who the Thompsons are, right? You should not know that they are monarchy money, right? You should not know these things. But very recently, Changpeng Zhao has shown up on the list. Who is Changpeng Zhao? This fucking egghead nerd looking guy. Commonly known as CZ, is a Chinese-born Canadian businessman. Zhao is the co-founder and former CEO of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange by trading volume as of November 2023. He resigned as the CEO in November 2023 after pleading guilty to a money laundering charge in the United States. What? Cryptocurrencies are for money laundering? What? According to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index, Zhao was ranked the 69th richest person in the world, with a net worth estimate at $23 billion as of November 2023. I'm reading this whole thing because this whole thing is like, here's how you ascend the meritocracy, guys. This is how you do it, okay? This is how you get on that. You build up yourself, you clean your room, right? You climb the meritocracy with your competency. Zhao was born in Liang, Yongyang in China's Jingzhou province. In the late 1980s, when he was 12 years old, he immigrated with his family to Canada, settling down in Vancouver, British Columbia. His parents were both school teachers in China. His father worked as a university instructor before he was branded a pro-bourgeoisie intellect and exiled to rural areas shortly after Zhao's birth. So, a capitalist collaborator that got the shit kicked out of him. Great. During his teenage years in Canada, Zhao helped support his family by holding down a number of service jobs, including working as a fast food clerk at a McDonald's restaurant and a gas station. Zhao attended McGill University in Montreal, Quebec, where he majored in computer science. After graduating from McGill, Zhao was selected for an internship in Tokyo, working for a subcontractor of the Tokyo Stock Exchange, developing software for matching trade orders. He later went to work full-time for 4 years at Bloomberg Tradebook, where he was a developer of futures trading software. In 2005, Zhao moved to Shanghai to launch his business career, where he established his first technology startup company called Fusion Systems, which was known for some of the fastest automated high-frequency trading platforms and systems for stockbrokers. Zhao first heard of Bitcoin in 2013 while playing poker with Bobby Lee, brother of Charlie Lee, who would later go on to found BTCC Company. Lee advised Zhao to put 10% of his money into Bitcoin. Zhao instead went all in and sold his apartment in Shanghai and invested all of his wealth in Bitcoin, much to his family's dismay. In 2013, Zhao was a member of the team that developed blockchain.info, and he also served as chief technology officer of OKCoin. After Binance, after its launch in July 2017, the Binance cryptocurrency exchange was able to raise $15 million in an initial coin offering, and trading began on the exchange 11 days later. In less than 8 months, Zhao grew Binance into the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange by trading volume as of April 2018. Zhao also launched Binance Coin in 2017. This is a utility token that gives its owners various benefits, such as discounts on trading fees. In April 2019, Binance launched Binance Smart Chain, which has smart contract functionality and is an Ethereum competitor. In February 2018, Forbes placed him third on their list of the richest people in cryptocurrency with an estimated net worth of $1.1 to $2 billion. In 2019, Zhao launched Binance US affiliate, Binance US. Binance withdrew its application to run a Singapore-based crypto exchange in 2021. Legal troubles. Civil lawsuits. On the 27th of March 2023, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission filed a lawsuit against Binance and Zhao in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, claiming willful evasion of U.S. law and alleging breaching derivatives rules. The agency accused Binance of breaking rules intended to thwart money laundering operations, pointing to an internal communications describing transactions by Palestinian militant organization Hamas and suspected criminals. Is this guy working with Hamas? It's actually kind of awesome. In June 2023, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission says it was suing Zhao and Binance on 13 charges for alleged violations of U.S. securities rules. In November 2023, Zhao agreed to resign from Binance and pay a $50 million fine as part of a guilty plea to U.S. federal charges. Binance also agreed to plead guilty and to pay $4.3 billion in fines. Zhao was replaced by CEO by Richard Tang. Zhao personally pled guilty to violating the American Bank Secrecy Act by prioritizing Binance's growth over compliance with FinCEN anti-money laundering requirements. Here's your capitalist efficiencies right here, you guys. Although Zhao only personally pled guilty to a single criminal charge as part of the plea bargain negotiations, Zhao agreed for Binance to also admit to operating an unlicensed money transmitting business and to violating the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. In an interview with the New York Times, Zhao said people are getting into crypto as they see it grow, trade, and make money off of it, as opposed to using it, but the market will always self-correct. He told Bloomberg Markets that nearly 100% of his liquid net worth was in the form of cryptocurrency. In 2022, Zhao invested $500 million through Binance to finance the acquisition of Twitter by Elon Musk. So this guy is deeply involved in this whole Twitter thing with Elon Musk. Like, and like, why shouldn't he do all of this crime? It's been extremely lucrative, right? This is extremely lucrative. Ugh. I don't know if it was during Mao or... I think it's got to be during Deng, right? Like the 80s? Methane, I had an account on Binance for a while. I didn't realize the guy was Canadian, though. The previous top Canadian crypto exchange, Quadriga, also had a bit of controversy. The owner was reported to have died in Bermuda or something, and that he was the only one with keys to the vault. Like... Come on, guys, with all this crypto shit, right? Like, geez, like, I understand the allure. I understand why people are, like, taken in by this crypto stuff. But it's gotta be not the dumbest. It's not the dumbest idea, but it's definitely, like, in the high level of dumb fuckery. Like, it's a very, like, it's an unsmart thing for us to do, right? Let's digitize our currency and let just some dumb fucks control it. Literally, like, oh, we don't have a key. Sorry. I know you invested $100 billion, but, you know, the guy died and he had a key and we can't get in now. So, too bad. Too bad. Like, this is how people are making money in the society, okay? Like, this guy, Changpeng Zhao, has done nothing important at all. You understand? Nothing important at all. Nothing of merit or value, even a little tiny bit. He is a stock trader. That's what he is. He is utterly without value. And it's made him the 69th richest person in the world. Do you understand how fraudulent this entire system has become? Do you understand how ridiculous it is that the people who are being rewarded in this system and in this society are literal gamblers? Like, that's quite literally what we're looking at. He is not providing a service. He is not improving the quality of life for anyone. He's not putting anything out there that's making anyone better. He's literally promoting a fantasy of digitized currency is the wave of the future. In the future, every currency will be digitized. We'll burn fossil fuels for fake money. Like, that's the stupidest part about cryptocurrency. And the reason why it got banned in China, the reason why it gets banned everywhere, that the only place that still supports this is a lunatic society like the United States that'll say out loud, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world to burn a non-renewable resource in order to ensure that monopoly money can exist. Like, get the fuck right out of here. Get the fuck right out. Goodbye. Richest Canadian. Utterly without value. Jeez Louise, man. All right. I said we were going to pivot to it. We got 1 hour left. Here we are, pivoting to it. Israel is terrified the World Court will decide it's committing genocide. South Africa, a party to the Genocide Convention, charged Israel with genocide in the International Court of Justice. For nearly 3 months, Israel has enjoyed virtual impunity for its atrocious crimes against the Palestinian people. That changed on December 29th. Hold on, I gotta. Here we go. When South Africa, a state party to the Genocide Convention, filed an 84-page application in the International Court of Justice, the ICJ or World Court, alleging that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. South Africa's well-documented application alleges that acts and omissions by Israel are genocidal in character, as they are committed with the requisite specific intent to destroy Palestinians in Gaza as part of the broader Palestinian national, racial, and ethnical group. I've never even seen the word ethnical in my life. And that the conduct of Israel, through its state organs, state agents, and other persons and entities acting on its instructions or under its direction, control, or influence, in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, is in violation of its obligations under the Genocide Convention. Israel is mounting a full court press to prevent an ICJ finding that it's committing genocide in Gaza. On January 4th, The Israeli Foreign Ministry instructed its embassies to pressure politicians and diplomats in their host countries to make statements opposing South Africa's case at the ICJ. In its application, South Africa cited 8 allegations to support its contention that Israel is perpetuating genocide in Gaza. They include, number 1, killing Palestinians in Gaza, including a large proportion of women and children, approximately 70% of the more than 21,110 fatalities, and some appear to have been subjected to summary execution. Number 2, causing serious mental and bodily harm to Palestinians in Gaza, including maiming, psychological trauma, and inhuman and degrading treatment. 3, causing the forced evacuation and displacement of about 85% of Palestinians in Gaza, including children, the elderly and infirm, and the sick and wounded. Israel is also causing the massive destruction of Palestinian homes, villages, towns, and refugee camps, and entire areas, which precludes the return of a significant proportion of the Palestinian people to their home. 4, causing widespread hunger, starvation, and dehydration to the besieged Palestinians in Gaza by impeding sufficient humanitarian assistance, cutting off sufficient food, water, fuel, and electricity, and destroying bakeries, mills, agricultural lands, and other means of production and sustenance. 5, failing to provide and restricting the provision of adequate clothing, shelter, hygiene, and sanitation to Palestinians in Gaza, including 1.9 million internally displaced persons. This has compelled them to live in dangerous situations of squalor, in conjunction with routine targeting and destruction of places of shelter, and killing and wounding of persons who are sheltering, including women, children, and elderly, and the disabled. 6, failing to provide for or ensure the provision of medical care to Palestinians in Gaza, including those medical needs created by other genocidal acts that are causing serious bodily harm. This is occurring by direct attacks on Palestinian hospitals, ambulances, and other healthcare facilities, the killing of Palestinian doctors, medics, and nurses, including the most qualified medics in Gaza, and the destruction and disabling of Gaza's medical system. 7, destroying Palestinian life in Gaza by destroying its infrastructure, schools, universities, courts, public buildings, public records, libraries, stores, churches, mosques, roads, utilities, and other facilities necessary to sustain the lives of Palestinians as a group. Israel is killing whole families, erasing entire oral histories, and killing prominent and distinguished members of society. And number 8, imposing measures intended to prevent Palestinian births in Gaza, including those reproductive violence inflicted on Palestinian women, newborns, infant, and children. South Africa cited myriad statements by Israeli officials that constitute direct evidence of an intent to commit genocide. Gaza won't return to what it was before. We will eliminate everything, Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said. If it doesn't take one day, it will take a week. It will take weeks or even months. We will reach all places. Avi Dichter, Israel's Minister of Agriculture, declared, "We are now actually rolling out the Gaza Nakba," a reference to the 1948 ethnic cleansing of Palestinians to create the State of Israel. Now we have all one common goal, erasing the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth. Nissim Vaturi, the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and member of the Foreign Affairs and Security Committee, proclaimed. Israel's strategy to defeat South Africa's case at the ICJ. Israel and its chief patron, the United States, understand the magnitude of South Africa's ICJ application, and they are livid. Israel usually thumbs its nose into international institutions, but it is taking South Africa's case seriously. In 2021, when the International Criminal Court launched an investigation into Israel's alleged war crimes in Gaza, Israel firmly rejected the legitimacy of the probe. Israel generally doesn't participate in such proceedings, Professor Ilyev Lieblich an international law expert at Tel Aviv University told Haaretz. But this isn't a UN inquiry commission or the International Criminal Court in The Hague, whose authority Israel rejects. It's the International Court of Justice, which derives its powers from a treaty Israel joined, so it can't reject it on the usual grounds of lack of authority. It's also a body with international prestige. A January 4th cable from the Israeli Foreign Ministry says that Israel's strategic goal is that the ICJ reject South Africa's request for an injunction to suspend Israel's military action in Gaza, refuse to find that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, and rule that Israel is complying with international law. A ruling by the court could have significant potential implications that are not only in the legal world, but have practical bilateral, multilateral economic security ramifications, the cable states. We ask for an immediate and unequivocal public statement along the following lines. To publicly and clearly state that your country rejects the outrageous, absurd, and baseless allegations made against Israel. The cable instructs Israeli embassies to urge diplomats and politicians at the highest levels to publicly acknowledge that Israel is working, together with international actors, to increase the humanitarian aid to Gaza, as well as to minimize damage to civilians, while acting in self-defense after the horrible October 7th attack by a genocidal terrorist organization. The State of Israel will appear before the ICJ at The Hague to dispel South Africa's absurd blood libel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spokesperson Evlon Levy declared. South Africa's application is without legal merit and constitutes a base exploitation and contempt of court, he said. Israel is pulling out all the stops, including disingenuous accusations of blood libel, an anti-Semitic trope that erroneously accuses Jews of the ritual sacrifice of Christian children. How tragic that the rainbow nation that prides itself on fighting racism will be fighting pro bono for anti-Jewish racists, Levy added ironically. He made the astonishing claim that Israel's military campaign to destroy Hamas in Gaza is designed to prevent the genocide of the Jews. As the old adage goes, when you're being run out of town, get in front of the crowd and act like you're leading the parade. The Biden regime rose to defend its staunch ally Israel. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby lambasted South Africa's ICJ application as meritless, counterproductive, and completely without any basis in fact whatsoever. Kirby claimed, Israel is not trying to wipe the Palestinian people off the map. Israel is not trying to wipe Gaza off the map. Israel is trying to defend itself against a genocidal terrorist threat, echoing Israel's preposterous assertion. Kirby's contention that Israel is trying to prevent genocide is particularly absurd, given the fact that since Hamas killed 1,200 Israelis on October 7th, Israeli forces have killed at least 22,100 Gazans, about 9,100 of whom are children. 7,000 are reported missing. Untold numbers of people are trapped beneath the rubble. At least 57,000 persons have been wounded. Provisional measures against Israel can have immediate impact. South Africa is requesting that the ICJ order provisional measures, interim injunction, in order to protect against further severe and irreparable harm to the rights of the Palestinian people under the Genocide Convention. South Africa is also asking the court to ensure Israel's compliance with its obligations under the Genocide Convention not to engage in genocide and to prevent and to punish genocide. The provisional measures South Africa seeks include ordering Israel to immediately suspend its military operations in and against Gaza, and to cease and desist from killing and causing serious bodily or mental harm to Palestinians, inflicting on them conditions of life intended to destroy them in whole or in part, and imposing measures to prevent Palestinian births. South Africa wants the ICJ to order that Israel stop expelling and forcibly displacing Palestinians and depriving them of food, water, fuel, and medical supplies and assistance. The judicial arm of the United Nations, the ICJ, is composed of 15 judges elected for a 9-year term by the UN General Assembly and the Security Council. It is not a criminal tribunal like the International Criminal Court. Rather, it resolves disputes between countries. If a party to the Genocide Convention believes that another party has failed to comply with its obligations, it can take that country to the ICJ to determine its responsibility. This was done in the case of Bosnia v. Serbia, in which the court found that Serbia violated its duties to prevent and publish genocide under the convention. The obligations in the Genocide Conventions are erga omne parte, that is, obligations owed by a state towards all states partied to the convention. The ICJ has stated, in such a convention, the contradicting states do not have any interests of their own. They merely have, one and all, a common interest, namely, the accomplishment of those high purposes which are the raison d'etre of the convention. Article 94 of the UN Charter says that all parties to a dispute must comply with the decisions of the ICJ, and if a party fails to do so, the other party may go to the UN Security Council for the enforcement of the decision. An average ICJ case from start to finish can last several years. It was nearly 15 years from the time that Bosnia first filed its case against Serbia in 1993 to the issuance of the final judgment on the merits in 2007. However, a case can have an immediate impact. The filing of a case in the ICJ sends a strong message to Israel that the international community will not tolerate its actions and seek to hold it accountable. Provisional measures can be issued quickly. For example, the ICJ ordered measures 19 days after the Bosnian case was initiated. Provisional measures are binding on the party against whom they are ordered, and compliance with them can be monitored by both the ICJ and the Security Council. Judgments on the merits rendered by the ICJ in disputes between parties are binding on the parties involved. Article 94 of the UN Charter provides that each member of the United Nations undertakes to comply with the decision of the court in any case to which it is a party. The judgments of the court are final. There is no appeal. Public hearings on South Africa's request for provisional measures will take place on January 11th and 12th at the ICJ, which is located in the Peace Palace in The Hague, Netherlands. The hearing will be live streamed from 4 to 6 a.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 a.m. Pacific, on the court's website and on UN Web TV. The court could order provisional measures within a week after the hearings. That's pretty cool. Let me just live stream the thing. How much more is there to this thing? Not that much more. Other state parties to the Genocide Convention can join South Africa's case. Other state parties to the Genocide Convention can either request permission to intervene in the case filed by South Africa or file their own applications against Israel in the ICJ. South Africa's application identifies several countries that have referred to Israel's genocide in Gaza. They include Algeria, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Cuba, Iran, Palestine, Turkey, Venezuela, Bangladesh, Egypt, Honduras, Iraq, Jordan, Libya, Malaysia, Namibia, Pakistan, and Syria. On January 7th, Quds News Network tweeted, Jordan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Safadi, announces that his country backs South Africa's genocide case against Israel in the ICJ. He added that the Jordanian government is working on a legal file to follow up on the case. Turkey, Malaysia, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation had announced that they back the case too. The newly formed International Coalition to Stop Genocide in Palestine, endorsed by more than 600 groups throughout the world, has convened to urge states parties to invoke the Genocide Convention. The coalition contends declarations of intervention in support of South Africa's invocation of the Genocide Convention against Israel will increase the likelihood that a positive finding of the crime of genocide will be enforced by the United Nations, such that actions will be taken to end all acts of genocide and those who are responsible for the acts will be held accountable. During the first week of January, delegations of grassroots diplomats, spearheaded by Code Pink, World Beyond War, and Roots Action, mounted a campaign across the United States, urging nations to submit declarations of intervention in South Africa's case against Israel in the ICJ. Activists traveled to 12 cities, visiting UN missions, embassies, and consulates from Colombia, Pakistan, Bolivia, Bangladesh, the African Union, Ghana, Chile, Ethiopia, Turkey, Belize, Brazil, Denmark, France, Honduras, Ireland, Spain, Greece, Mexico, Italy, Haiti, Belgium, Kuwait, Malaysia, and Slovakia. This is the rare case where collective social pressure urging governments to support the South African case can be a sharp turning point for Palestine, said Lamas Deek, a Palestinian attorney based in New York, whose firm convened the Palestinian Assembly for Liberation's commissions on war crimes justice, reparations, and return. We need more states to file supporting interventions, and we need the court to feel the watchful eye of the masses so as to withstand what will be extreme U.S. political pressure on the court. Suzanne Adley, president of the National Lawyers Guild, noted, the increasing global isolation of Israel and the U.S. and their European allies is an indicator that this is a key moment for popular movements to move their governments in the direction of taking these steps and on being on the right side of history. Indeed, since October 7th, millions of people throughout the world have marched, protested, and demonstrated in support of Palestinian liberation. Roots Action and World Beyond War have created a template that organizations and individuals can use to urge other states, parties to the Genocide Convention to file a declaration of intervention in South Africa's genocide case against Israel in the ICJ. I'm glad I read that, man. I'm glad I read that. Norm Finkelstein had a comment on it. He was less positive about the chance that this will actually happen. That he went through the countries that are sitting on the board for this on the Security Council, and he was very adamant that it's if it does go through, it will be very thin, right? It'll be a very close decision, even though it's extremely obvious. To me, this is I think the stakes on this for the World Court, for the ICJ, could not be higher. If the ICJ does not actually proclaim this as an actual genocide, then it delegitimizes itself as a court. And I think that that's what should be stated, and that's what should be understood. That the legitimacy of an international court like this rests in its ability to call things correctly. And if you're not going to call what's happening in Palestine a genocide, then there is no such thing as genocide. And we certainly don't need to listen to what the World Court has to say. It wouldn't surprise me. We are in this era of international organizations losing credibility. And so why not the World Court? Staz, good to see you. Happy New Year to you. Demand Better, good to see you. What? The right wing doesn't actually care about free speech and will purge and censor more liberals than leftists? Say it ain't so. Feel better soon, John. Yeah, dude, my legs. And I think I am actually going to go to the gym after this, too. So it's just like a disaster upon a disaster is what it is. Not to do legs, of course, but just to lift some weights. Get out of my apartment for a minute. Clear my head a bit. Like, there's just been... This stream in particular definitely feels like there's been... And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm like more sensitive to it at the moment. I'm definitely more sensitive to it at the moment. But just like... I'm done with this stupid bullshit, man. Like, going into 2024, like, nope, no more. No more of this dumb bullshit. If you're going to stand in front of me and say this dumb shit, I'm going to call you a dumbass. And that's the way it's going to go. Because I'm just so sick and tired of our society wallowing in this place of just overt stupidity, right? Like, for goodness sakes, here's something that's actually happening. Hundreds gather outside former Italian social movement HQ, making fascist salutes. Like, this is a real thing. Footage circulating on social media showed hundreds outside former headquarters of the Italian social movement making fascist salutes. The Italian social movement was a fascist party that later morphed. Hold on, I later morphed into the Brothers of Italy party, which Giorgia Meloni, the incumbent prime minister, was a co-founder. Right? Distancer party of allegations of links to fascism. The event marked the 46th anniversary of the killing of 3 fascists in Rome. Like, we're all seeing that, right? We're all seeing that, right? I'm not the only one. Has a New Bookshelf asks, how come South Africa is the first to do it and not Iran, China, Syria, Turkey, Russian Federation, Belarus, Ireland, Spain, or the DPRK? I think it's because South Africa is the one that has the most credibility in the conversation. That's why. That South Africa was not that long ago an apartheid regime, that if any country has the credibility to be able to stand up and say that what we're seeing here is an apartheid state and that what we're seeing here is a genocide, it would be South Africa. Like, also I think that South Africa isn't as deeply enmeshed or embroiled in the kind of head-to-head, like China, for example, is like there's a narrative of China and America kind of at odds with one another, head-to-head. Same thing with Russia, right? And you could make that claim for like a lot of different states. South Africa doesn't really live in that space. You know, South Africa is just kind of like its own actor that makes decisions for itself. It's not really like in the axis of evil, you know? Like Iran would be. That's 100% what they would say about Iran. Oh, Iran, the axis of evil. Oh, yeah, okay, sure, Iran, whatever, right? So I think narratively, the South Africans being the ones to put this forward is the strongest, I think. It'd be difficult for me to find another nation that would be able to sort of sidestep counter-allegation. What a time. What a time we're having. What a time we're having. Oh yeah, this video in particular is like, I found this to be especially dystopian. You guys let me know what you think. Here, I'm going to change this so that you don't get the bad sound effect. I'll turn that down. Like, this felt really fucking weird, and it had that kind of like culty, like, never tell me that the Democrats are not a cult.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
So they're in a church. Calling for a ceasefire. Getting led out of the building. And the response from the people. Well, they're in a church, nonetheless.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Look, folks, I understand their passion, and I've been quietly working with the Israeli government to get them to reduce and significantly get out of Gaza. I'm using all that I can to do.
Yeah. So quietly working that nobody can hear you do it. So quietly working that not even the Israelis have noticed you've done it. Like, that's a creepy video. This is a really, really fucking creepy video. That, like, these people are calling for a ceasefire. They're led out of the building. 4 more years. Blatant bullshit lie. Video
over. Quietly working with the Israeli government to
in
get
a church,
them to
no less.
reduce and significantly get out.
Like, can you find a better video? Can you find a better video that encapsulates, like, the decline of the entire, like, the edifice of the whole thing? Like, that the people who are calling for the reasonable thing to do, right, are led out of the building. That the mass of the people start chanting collectively, and then listen to this bullshit.
The Israeli government to get them to reduce and significantly get out of Gaza.
Like, it's stunning to watch. I'm worried what this year will bring, writes Methane. I have no idea what will happen. I can't help but feel like I should brace for the worst. Yeah, 2024 is going to suck the big one. Like, we are going to elect here in Canada, we're going to elect a right-wing government, right? Like, probably if I was like a betting man, if I was to put like money on the table, I would bet in favor of a minority. I think that's the most likely outcome, is that it'll be a conservative minority government. And in the United States, it's just going to go full fucking Trump, man. Like, the whole electoral season is just going to be like you guys are going to tune in here, and even I'm going to have to be like, well, here's some crazy Trump bullshit. Like, here's some crazy shit going on in the United States, man. Like, it's going to be like a big wave that's going to go across Europe too. So, like, it's going to be like a bunch of far right, at least fascist adjacent organizations taking power throughout the Western world. And it's going to be really, really wild. It's going to be really, really dark and really, really bleak and really, really difficult, I think, for most people to go through. Like, the housing crisis here in Canada is not going to abate, right? Housing is just going to continue going up. The inflation crisis is not going to alleviate. It's just going to continue. All of the issues that we are facing as a people are just going to get worse and are just going to get more entrenched. And the people of the society are going to be turned against one another, right? Because that's how the system of capital ultimately defends itself, is by having sections of the working class fight themselves. So 2024 is not going to be a good year. Person on Twitch, inmate president. Hello, Canadian. Certainly, indeed. Greetings from your southern neighbor. Hello, and how are you doing, my friend? Hope you're here to contribute in a beautiful way. Ugh. Man, it's raining. It's raining really hard. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to the gym. If it's raining like that, forget that. I was thinking about it, but nah. Inmate president writes, we're about to jail a former president down here. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, I'll be very, very surprised if Trump goes to jail at all. Like, I think he's I think that the system of and I also think that anytime anybody any of these Democrats go after Trump in the way that they are doing, I think that it's working against them politically. I think that every single time they do a lawsuit, or any single time they get in Trump's way, or any single time they're doing any kind of stuff, uh, uh, they I think that they just empower Trump's message and Trump's base. I always ask people who say we're so close to civil war, so then I ask, so who's your enemy in this war? They get mad and can't put together a coherent explanation. I mean, you do have an enemy, right? Your enemy is the capitalist class. Like, very, very obviously, that's the case. Like, guys like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and like Jeff Bezos, like these guys are so clearly your enemies. Like, they're so obviously trying to destroy you. It's very, very embarrassing, right? An enemy is someone you kill on sight. I mean, if you want to actually be politically effective, given the way that the system of capital is, I think that your best bet is to organize with people who are willing to surround the halls of power. That's what's been effective historically. The I do think that, like, I mean, you take a look at the Kyle Rittenhouse case is, I think, a really good example of this, where I think that you are going to have groups of people, like, historically a civil war is when the military gets involved, right? Like, who is the military actually going to fight against, and who is the military actually going to press against, right? And the situation is getting so bad for so many Americans as America essentially becomes a third world country, and as it begins to divide itself further and further and further. I mean, it's to call it a civil war. Like, it's like a country that's in a permanent state of rebellion with itself, right? Like, when we think of the word civil war, we think of, like, lines drawn. That's what we think, that there's two sides and they fight against each other. That's what we really think when it comes to a civil war. But it's not really like that in the United States. That it's more like a culture and a country that's just in a perpetual state of total rebellion, right? How is America becoming third world? Oh, okay, you just don't care. That's all. No. If you're gonna make a statement like that, you just don't care. That's all. Like, there is a great book written by Chris Hedges and Joe Sacco, where they go into the American, what they call the American sacrifice zones. Chris Hedges, Joe Sacco. What was the name of this book? And they document it very clearly, right? Like, like, just because that these places are invisible to you, right? Just because you don't know about them or care to know about them, doesn't mean they don't exist. And I mean, if you go into, like, Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt, that's what it is, where they just document these they document these sections, what's the other America, right? The America you don't see on television, right? And they actually show you what's actually going on in America through a graphic novel. And the another good source would be Matt Taibbi's The Great Divide, or the not the Great Divide, The Divide, right? Where they show very clearly that there's two Americas, right? There's two things going on in America. And if you are on the side where you're not experiencing it, right, then you can pretend like it's not happening. And it's easy to pretend like it's not happening. Your media doesn't show it to you, first of all. Your media goes to great lengths to ensure that it's completely eradicated. But I mean, you can see it in the drug epidemic crisis. You can see it in the homelessness crisis. You can see it in the prison population, the prison population crisis, right? It's all over the place in America. Like, you can see it everywhere. as long as you go and find it, because your media is not going to show it to you, right? Because that's the job of the corporate media, is to show you that America's the greatest country in the world. It's never going to fall, all that kind of stuff. When huge sections of the uh, American populace are experiencing third world conditions, right? And you've got to write. You got to like. You do at some point have to actively be participating in it, right? You have to actively be participating in it. Thoughts on Franz Fanon? Yeah, very important reading. I'm not the expert on it. We have a regular who comes in here, Anemone. She knows a lot about Franz Fanon, and she's the one that introduced me to Franz Fanon. And I should do more reading on Franz Fanon for sure. And but yeah, those are my thoughts on Franz Fanon. Yeah. Jeff Bezos isn't your enemy. He absolutely is. Like Jeff Bezos is an enemy to every working person. He's his strategy is very simple: move into an area with a big giant warehouse, bribe a bunch of politicians in order to let him do it, destroy local commerce as efficiently as possible, and then use the labor force in the region as cattle and burn them out as fast as possible. Uh, uh, he's absolutely, and once he extracts as much wealth as he possibly can from a region and he can't extract any wealth anymore, he'll just abandon it, right? He's not your ally. If Bezos is your enemy, what would you do if you saw him in person? Avoid him because he has an armed guard. Like, I'm not an idiot. End the war machine and drain the swamp. Save America from the southern border crisis, blah, blah, blah. Just some Trump bullshit. No, inmate president, that's just stupid. Like, that's just a dumb way to think about things. There are ways to work and there are ways to fail. And what you're describing is failure. Like, what we need to be doing as a people is coming together. Like what are you, a little boy? Like, how old are you? Like, what is this? Like, you need to be organizing with your friends and families. Like, that's how we are going to be avoiding this. Like, this whole like quick draw McGraw bullshit. It's just baby thought. It's just baby brain bullshit. Like, what? Will you pull a gun and shoot Bezos if you saw him? Like, it's just baby talk. Like, you should be trying to legitimately organize in legitimate ways, right? And yeah, you know what, inmate? I don't think you know the first thing about what you're talking about. I think that you're a clueless little boy. I don't think you know anything about the chakras. I don't think you know anything about anything. Like, if you want to learn, you could start asking questions and you can start finding stuff out about your society, right? Because it sounds to me like you're just a little kid that doesn't know anything. That's what it sounds like. So, yeah, and if you can't think of any questions, maybe you should stop talking and just listen in, right? Because if you're not smart enough to think of questions, then maybe you're not smart enough to have opinions. Do you get lots of Trump stuff? Yeah. Too stupid to talk to, my man. You're too stupid. Go away. Stop being so stupid. Learn how to talk to people. And when you learn how to stop being such a stupid person, you can come back. But right now, you're a very stupid person, and I don't abide stupidity. Especially intentional stupidity, which is what you are. Intentionally stupid. Go away. Yeah, I get a couple of Trump guys. And what's so fun? I love keeping the Trump guys around. I got to tell you why, and I'll tell you why. It's to really show when stupid people, like when genuinely stupid people show up, it's to show them how stupid they are, right? That I keep Trump people around. Like, I think that Trump people are smarter than these stupid idiots. Like just a stupid moron like this that shows up and thinks that his opinions actually matter while he pretends like the degradation of his society doesn't exist. Like it's just genuinely stupid, right? Whereas like the Trump people are wrong, certainly, but I don't think they're stupid, you know? I just think that they're kind of caught in a mode of thinking. And the mode of thinking that they're caught in is that they believe that this guy, Donald Trump, is going to help them because they've bought into the idea that the electoral system is actually going to work in their favor for some reason, right? So it's wrong, but I don't think it's stupid. And I think that the Trump people are seeking solutions to problems that they see that exist, right? Whereas this guy, this inmate president guy, is just dramatically stupid. Does not acknowledge that problems exist. Thinks that he's an expert when he's illiterate and stupid. Thinks that his opinion matters when it doesn't, and is too stupid to realize how stupid he is, right? So I like to keep the Trump people around because they really, really drive the nail in the coffin for these really desperately illiterate, stupid people. These little boys that think that they are smart, just how stupid they actually are. And I do think that people need to hear how stupid they are, right? Like this guy was trying to tell me, like, "Oh, it doesn't. You got the shocker poster, and that's a bit hypocritical." No, I think that there are people who need to hear how stupid they are, right? This guy, inmate president, is a desperately stupid person, just desperately bottom of the barrel. You can't get much lower, right? Than believing you're an expert when you're not. And I think that there are people who need to hear how stupid that they are, and it's perfectly in line with the chakras. You're a very stupid person. Stop being so stupid. AK writes, okay, genuine question. Do you think the current state of the world would be better off if Trump had won the 2020 election? No. I don't think much would have changed, my man. Like Trump's not a god, you know? Like Trump fans tend to think that Trump is a like Trump fans somehow seem to think that Trump is like the end all be all, like he's like this god king that like things are gonna. No, I think that things basically would have gone more or less as they would have gone. You know, like maybe the Ukraine war would have pivoted a little bit differently, or maybe like there would have been something more significant or something different that might have happened. But I think the system as it is so much bigger than Donald Trump, right? Like I don't think that Donald Trump can grab hold of this thing and turn it on a wheel. Quite the opposite. Nor do I think he's actually interested in doing so. AK writes, Trump is the first U.S. president that did not profit and enrich himself as president. I mean, I think he's had to pay a lot of money in legal fees. I think that he's been defending himself legally. Yeah, I'm not trying to tell you that it hasn't been a slog for him. Like I think that the Democrats especially have really gone after him in a very dark and personal kind of a way. I think that that's true. That doesn't really mean anything to me. It just tells me that the Democrats consider Trump a threat to them. So that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean he's a good man. Doesn't mean he's a good guy. Doesn't mean he's trying to help anybody. Like Trump's not really trying to help anybody, you know? Like he had 4 years in office, and what did he do with it? He like cut his own taxes and went golfing. Like, come on. Jian writes, I think there's enough goodwill, both in the US and worldwide, to live in community as humans once the empire and capitalism inevitably collapse. I mean, I I think that people are going to try. I think that's the truth. I do think that there's lots of people who are going to try, right? And a lot of people who are going to come together and just continue building their community and continue living communally, right? Continue growing food, uh, uh, continue providing for one another, right? Continue providing amenities for one another. I think there's plenty of that's going to happen for sure. I also think that there's just going to be private military gangs that are going to go around and just blow the shit out of anything they find and steal whatever resources they can, right? Like, I think it's going to go both ways. Like, I think that the uh, uh, I think that the collapse of the system as it begins to decline is going to be full of all kinds of things. But the one thing that it's definitely going to have is disunity, right? It's going to have chaos. And I mean, will Donald be a dictator? I mean, insofar as the American system, like, my position is that this is a dictatorship of capital. That whoever's at the helm doesn't really matter, right? It's not really that important. It doesn't really matter that much, and that there's that the system of American democracy and the system of American capital has already discredited itself, right? So whether or not you want to put the name dictator onto it or not, right? Obviously, Donald Trump is a very forceful personality who will do things, but like, George W. Bush he used more executive orders than than every president before him combined. Does that make George W. Bush a dictator? Like, George W. Bush literally stood at the UN and said, "You're either with us or against us, and we're going to go in there anyway, with or without you." Does that make him a dictator? Like, the for God's sakes, Bush stood in front of everybody and said, "I'm the decider." You know? Does that make him a dictator? So, like, the American system of capital is a dictator style system. It's just a dictatorship of capital. And it doesn't really respond to the needs of the people. Doesn't really respond to any of that shit. AK writes, I think it was his foreign policy that stood out to me. The world at large was at peace. Okay. You had countries like North Korea and Russia discussing denuclearization. It was a beautiful development. I mean, I do think that there are things that you can point to in the Trump administration in terms of foreign policy that are of note. His position on the relations between North and South Korea, for example, which was basically just leave them alone, was unique. And that was a unique little moment, for sure. I don't think it deviates Trump from the course, if you understand me. Like, I think that, like, again, the system of capital and the system that these guys operate in is larger than them by a lot, right? So and you can always find, like, the one thing that makes you go, like, he's the greatest man alive, he's the best president we've ever had. You know, the thing about Trump is that he did that one thing that one time that I really liked. So, and you can always do that. You can do that with Biden, you can do that with Obama, you can do that with Bush, you can do that with Clinton. You can always do that. You can always say, here's the one thing that made him the difference maker. This is the point upon which the entire universe pivots, right? Doesn't make it true, and it's not really an interesting point, because the truth of the matter is that Trump just wants to be the president. Like, he just wants to be the president, probably just because he's bored, right? Like, he's a billionaire. He's had sex with all the women and sex with all the little girls, and he's golfed for a billion years. Right? And he's just like, what else is there? What else is there in this reality? And what else can I possibly do? And what else can I possibly attain? And so he's doing this presidential stuff because he's fucking bored. That's all. He wants to be the president. And the reality in my mind is that if the Democrats had just let him be the president, and then had just been like, oh, okay, he's the president, like, okay, and just had tolerated this for a period of time, he just would have faded out, right? His whole mega crowd and all of the diehards and all of this kind of stuff would have just faded away. If they had just been like, okay, Donald, whatever you think, okay, is he cutting my taxes? Yep. Hey, okay, great, Donald. You know? Like, all this drain the swamp stuff and all this, because it's all just bullshit, right? Like, he's not going to do the lasting damage that people think he's going to do. And how do I know that's true? Because George W. Bush did way more damage. Right? The Bush administration did way, way more damage. Because the Bush administration was basically just saying yes, sir, to the military-industrial complex. Right? Like, but to me, I just don't see Trump as this big, like, he's not going to be, honestly, like, I feel like in 20 years, people aren't even going to consider him to be very important. Like really. Like, I just don't see him as this important, that the only reason why it seems like, oh my God, it's happening, is because it's happening now. It's because it's new and because it's shiny and because there's the expectation of what could possibly happen, and there's all these emotions and these feelings and this immediacy to everything. And in 20 years, George W. Bush is going to be a way more important president than Trump. Way more important president than Trump. By a lot. Like, it's not going to be close. Like, Trump is going to be looked at as like this aberration, as this, like, yeah, he was a sign of the times, right? But in terms of his importance, like, he's going to be as important as, like, fucking Woodrow Wilson or Harding or something. He's not going to be this, like, Lincoln-style figure that the Trumpers want to believe that he is. Well, what is interesting, Gian, it's so funny when the Trumpers act like they care about peace. It's like, Trump did rise to prominence in the party by condemning the war on terror, right? That's true. That he really went after Jeb Bush, especially, right? He went after Jeb Bush, and I do think that the Republican Party has a significant amount of war exhaustion. I think that there's a significant amount of war exhaustion that exists in the Republican Party. I think a certain percentage of it is moral. I think that there are people who are like, these wars were wrong, we should have never done it. But I think the lion's share of it is just simple war exhaustion. That the people who are voting Republican are the people who are sending their sons and their daughters to war, and who know people who are coming back from these wars, and who know people who are going on these tours, and are military personnel. You know, like, I think that war exhaustion plays, and I just think that we've seen it, like, one of the most significant anti-war protests up until these Palestinian protests began was a right-wing protest. So I do think that there is a spirit of that exists on the right in the discourse. I just think that a lot of the times the people who exist on the right in that discourse have very bad solutions. Like, their solutions to things are often very, very bad, even philosophically. So it's always like we should go to peace with this person so that we can go to war with this person. You know, there's like that kind of thing. All right, guys, we've hit 9 o'clock. Oh, I hope my legs heal up. I hope they heal up nice. I'm feeling real rough. Always remember, guys, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.